That's what I'm talking about. What is going on, everybody? Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Argonauts, to a Saturday night stream. It is April 9th, 2022. It is 9:30 p.m. Eastern, and I hope everyone is doing well and is looking forward to the epic conclusion at long last of Legacy of Dragonholt. And I have to say, Configuration Queen, I agree with you that we do need to have a little bit of a catch up because, quite honestly, I'm looking at my notes for this too, and I don't understand my notes. I don't know what happened. I feel like the last time that we played this was back in like August or something absurd, and so it's been a while, and the notes that I have don't really fully make sense. But I really would want to get this done because I have other things I want to do in terms of like stuff with chat and all that. If I can't figure out these notes, quite honestly, we might have to switch to something else in terms of a D&D thing. I don't want to do that because I want to finish Legacy because I really was having a good time with Harriet and company. But these notes don't make sense to me. But I'll talk about that in a minute. And I thought about, I was having some tech problems with my other webcam, which I finally got resolved. And I was like, well, do I want to take even longer to try to figure this out? And I don't know. I was like, no, I want to just kind of get things rolling and see what we can do. So we will do that in just a second. But before I do that, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us on the channel. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to follow the channel. Please check out our YouTube with !ArvTube. We have been pushing the resub on this, or the sub on this, quite a bit because we want to get up to 1,000 subscribers. That's going to make a big difference in terms of what we can do both with that channel and with this one. And we are currently sitting here with 820, which is a new record over there. So thank you for those of you who have subscribed. And if you haven't, please consider doing so. It's free for you, but it really helps us out. We are only 180 subs away, folks, only 180 subs away from reaching that goal of 1,000 subs. And again, as I say, that's going to make a big difference on multiple levels. So please consider doing that if you can, because that would be really helpful. You should see not my smiling face yet. You should definitely see the art. I will show my smiling face just in a moment. Definitely subscribe over on RTube, ArvTube, !ArvCord is the Discord channel where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. !ArvTweets is my Twitter, where I will post where I'm going live, or as happened today, if I'm having tech issues. And of course, the website for this is arvaneleron.com. Yeah, it is a very pleasant mountain scene, isn't it? On the financial side, !ArvShop is my merchandise area, where you can get stuff for Infinity and Beyond, Adventures in Middle-earth, and soon-to-be Mysterious Peaks, Expedition for the Mysterious Peaks. Arv shop is that. !Arv is my Patreon. 20 patrons, 201 per month. I just put up the Patreon video yesterday. So the new video newsletter is up for people who are supporting us at a particular level, at a particular tier. So please support us over there. Cool stuff for you and cool stuff for the channel. So those are always good things, and we appreciate it if people are able to jump on board and help us out. !Arv for that. And of course, subbing to the channel and or resubbing to the channel is another way that you can help us with multiple tiers and things like that of support, which also allows you to get inspirations to help the players, plus the custom sub badges and emotes and all that kind of good stuff. So please consider jumping on board with that. And of course, as always, on the publishing side, Icarus is my Icarus graphic novel from Athos Arts. Very excited about that series down the line. Library is Tales and Tomes, The Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment, which is now available from your friendly local game store. And both of those companies, Alligator Alley and Athos Arts, are working together on my Gray Shade Kickstarter, along with someone else, another company which has now become involved. We can't talk about that yet, but new information is coming to light. So a new challenger has entered the arena, or I should say a new supporter has entered the arena. So that's going to be great. Of course, we also have Trendane's audiobook, which is going to be coming out as a part of this. So very excited about that Kickstarter. Again, Gray Shade will be released on May 31st. That's also when the preview page for the Kickstarter backer kit will go live. And 2 weeks later, the Kickstarter itself will launch. And that will involve Renegade and Heretic, the final 2 books in that series, plus the tabletop game designed by Aaron Rosenberg with Rich Lescouflair Consulting, plus the audiobook that I mentioned and some other surprises. So very cool stuff. Very excited about that. As always, !BLM, Black Lives Matter. Very important to affirm reaffirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives, and exclamation point help now, which is the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Very important to reach out to others when you need help and to reach out to others when they need help as well. Now, quick note about schedule. We've got Legacy of Dragonholt going on tonight. Tomorrow is the return of Speculate and Girl by Moonlight Fractal Spire with Brandon O'Brien as your GM. That's going to be coming back tomorrow. Monday, we will be off. And then Tuesday, it is the Streamiversary, people. On Tuesday, we have the Streamiversary, my 10-year Streamiversary. I'm going to be starting at the latest at 10 a.m. Eastern. I might do earlier than that if I can, but I'm not going to promise that. 10 a.m. Eastern is definitely when we will get started. We're going to play a couple of old games from the beginning when I first started streaming. We'll do some giveaways. We will have the cover reveal for the Greyshade novel, which I'm extremely excited about. And sort of, talking a little bit about the last 10 years and the years to come, hopefully on this channel. And then, of course, we'll have some Adventures of Middle-earth coming your way at noon. And then later on that day, 4 p.m. Eastern, over on GOG.com and Pen and Pixels, we will give to you what the people want, by which I mean some Dragon's Dogma. So that's going to be awesome. That'll be happening on Tuesday, then Wednesday, Thursday off. And then Friday and Saturday are going to be Gran Turismo 7 days, unless I'm not here. And that will depend on what happens with family stuff. I don't yet know if the family is going to be away on those 2 days, but we will see. So that's the plan. That's what we got going on here. So now I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to turn on that. Now you will notice, hi everybody, you'll notice that I'm a little bit sort of not in the normal place right now, and that's because I am getting ready to move behind here so that we can switch over to my other camera. But I do want to say that as I'm prepared to sort of set up for that, I'm going to have to make some adjustments in it. It's been a while since I've actually broadcast using the table setup, but also I want to do this because again, I don't 100% know that I understand my own notes. So I'm going to switch over and I'm going to have to turn on the mic and stuff like that too. So I'm going to go do that. And I am going to turn on my webcam and I'm going to reduce myself to a smaller side of things. There we go. We're going to put this over here. And then we're going to fire up ArvBot. So we can have that rolling. A little bit of ArvBot Plus. All right, start ArvBot. There's all that. Okay, and the thing we really need from that is the polls. Here we go. There's that, and let's fire up ArvBot Plus. There we go. All right, so I'm going to move these polls up since, I think it's conceivable you folks might like to actually see me. That's conceivable. It's possible you might like to see the streamer. I know that seems bizarre, but, that could actually happen. Okay, and then we're going to move that over there so we can see more clearly. And good. All right, so all that looks fine. So now I'm going to go over and sort of set this up if I can, so that we don't have everything right in the way. So I'm going to move this. Yeah. There we go. I am going to raise that a little bit higher. Oh, and I just realized I'm going to also not have that blocking my headphones. So this has got to go up a little further. There we go. Okay, we're going to put that over there. Right. So there's that. Okay. All right. So now we've got that, and now I can move this over. So we're going to rotate the camera. We're going to zoom it in. Okay. And, yes, one other thing, which is and I need some white light back there. Now we've got the fully operational and lit thing, and lastly, okay. So now I've got the microphone up so that hopefully people can hear me from all the way over there. So can people hear me okay? Are you folks able to hear me now that I have turned the microphone up? Can I be heard? Sounds good? Cool. Okay. I see, Dragon, I want you to know that I wore this. I was supposed to go watch my son's t-ball game today, but then they canceled it because they got like 2 drops of rain on the ground or something nonsensical. But I want you to know that I wore this in your honor. So I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy that I wore this just for you. I hope that makes you pleased and, you know, pleased about that stuff. Good. Okay. So we've got Harriet right there. We got our Legacy of Dragonholt. We got the story tracking sheet. Now, so here's the thing that I'm having trouble remembering because we're in the middle of day 6. And what I'm not understanding is deception for... We're in the middle of day 6. So... See, that can't be right. This is not the right tracking sheet, I don't think. Yes, we are not playing Midwinter's Morning. And, you know, I have to say, it is completely the fault, let me just say, of the Midwinter's Morning crew that we don't remember what we're doing with this, because every time we played some D&D with viewers, this is the thing that we were actually doing, right? We were doing this. We were just like, all right, you know, here we go. Here's this business, whatever. And then it turned out not so much because... turned out not so much because we were always playing Midwinter's Morning. So it's completely their fault. I want them to be aware of that. I want them to be aware of how much we must blame them. But see, here's the problem, though, okay? The problem that I'm facing here, Triffid, is that my notes, and I actually am very proud of the way that I keep notes most of the time, but my notes are, you know, I even for me, it's a little bit of a push to be able to get this many notes. Because this is like 6 months. You know, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. This is actually 8 months since we played Legacy. So I think I can be forgiven. There's been a lot that's happened since then. Okay, a lot that's happened. I can't help it. I do know that we tried to take down a dragon, and that didn't work out. And we did the best that we could, and that didn't totally work out either. And then, you know, so here we are, and I think that was basically what it was. So I think what ended up happening here, yeah, I could have gone back and watched the VODs. Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I've been more than a little bit busy, so I admittedly did not have a chance to do that. There are so many notes. There are so many notes. It's very true. I mean, I think the deal is, and this is the thing that confuses me, it says on the story tracking sheet that we're in the middle of day 6. Okay, it says that we're in the middle of day 6 right there. The problem is that if we're in the middle of day 6, I don't know why it says on our Dragonholt Village tracking sheet, which is like the campaign sheet, I don't know why it says that we are now on day 7 in the Masquerade Ball. So I guess the question is, I know that CQ is a big fan of this. I know that Triffid is a big fan of this. I know that we had a number of people who were invested in this. So my question is, do you folks remember if we went to this fancy ball, this fancy dress ball, that was this social event hosted by Lady Regina Fairfax for the villagers and the nobles of Dragonholt? I don't remember if that was where we were. It was called Paper Faces, because I have a whole sheet that has all of these listings of things that we did. And so if that's true, that would make some sense. The problem, though, is that the end note doesn't correspond to anything. And that's the thing that is really confusing me. Excuse me. You can't remember if we actually made it there yet? See, I have all of these entries on paper faces. I also played this once with a friend of mine, but I had that separately marked. So that was also part of it, is that I had that separately marked, and I don't... So I'm just sort of jumping to look at some of these things. 1118. Maybe it's 9417? No. 9917 is not a thing. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yes. Okay. Here's what happened. I remember this. We ran... I remember now. It's all coming back to me now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain how we'll catch ourselves up. I'm going to try to do an overall kind of encapsulated summary, okay? And then once I do that, then we'll be able to move into this. I remember now what's going on. So what happened was, first of all, so we are Harriet, which is this Hyriax catfolk, okay? A wildlander female. It's too much, I will sum up. And Harriet is young-looking, tall, short-haired, black and red mackerel tortoiseshell, copper eyes. She is reckless, almost manic at times, rapidly talkative, mostly to herself. Self-reliance is critical, loves a challenge as long as it's fair. Merry chase is stimulating and fun, wants to even the odds. She has a bunch of these different skills, and she has used up her experience. She's got 14 maximum stamina, so she's in good shape, right? That stuff is all in good shape. She's come to Dragonholt, and she's met a number of people. That is too much to go through. For that, you need to watch the first 7 days of Legacy of Dragonholt. But what we need to remember here is that we are on the final day. And not only the final day, but we are dealing with Lady Regina Fairfax. Now, the Fairfaxes are the ones who basically are the ruling family of this village. But you might remember that we actually have had one of her children was killed, and there's basically a conspiracy against the rest of her family's rule because her brother Kirik, I believe it's her brother, either her brother or uncle, I think it's her brother. Her brother Kirik believes that he should have been the one that should have inherited the kingdom, the dukeship or whatever, when the last person passed away. And instead, it was given to Lady Regina Fairfax. And so he's basically been agitating and engaged in this full conspiracy. So when we got there, we've been trying to undercut this conspiracy, and the belief is that it's all going to come to a head at this masked ball, and that's called Paper Faces, which is the final book here in the campaign. So we ran way over is what happened. We were running along, and we got halfway through the ball, and then a bunch of stuff happened. So that's actually good because it means we should be able to easily get done with this tonight and maybe even have a little time left over. So we should be okay to be able to do this. But so what I'm going to do is I gave you the basic summary. Now let me give you the summary of what happens in Paper Faces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thank you very much, Prince Justin, for the Tier 2 sub. Good to see you, Prince Justin. The Tier 2 sub, 36 months, currently on a 23-month streak. Wow. That is amazing to me. So congratulations, by the way, Prince Justin, with the 3 years of sub support. Thank you, Prince Justin. I can't believe time. Can anyone believe time? How is time even a thing? I can't believe that it's been 3 years that you've been supporting the channel. Thank you so much, Prince Justin, very much. Good to see you. I appreciate it, my friend. Time is an illusion. It really is. It really is. So, okay. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, feast your eyes on this amazing art. My one frustration with Legacy of Dragonholt is that I really wish that the art was more, like, that there was more of it. But man, I love the actual, just adore the art on this stuff. It's so good. I just wish there was more. There's just not enough of it. But so we've got this set up. We've got this set up. We also have some objects, by the way. Let me take care of that. We have got ourselves the map of Dragonholt. That's right there. We have got ourselves, let's see. We don't have the strange mushroom. We used that. We have got ourselves an moon mask. We have got ourselves a spirit mask. We have got ourselves a healing potion, maybe? We do not. We do not have that. We have a Spirit's Blessing, though. We have Rune Bracers. We have Iron Keys. We have a Strength Potion. And I think we actually used the Lodestone. I think we figured out a way to get rid of the Lodestone. So I think that's what we're dealing with here in terms of objects. The editorials especially. What's this? What is gone downhill? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Oh, oh, I get what you're saying. You know what? I actually had a subscription when I was a kid to Time, Arudnell, and I had so many of those old magazines till we threw them all out. It's like, what am I holding on to? Time magazine. Okay, so these are all of our objects that we have right now. Strength potion. When you drink this potion, you gain athletics, brawling, and endurance. Now, the thing is, we have all of those except... Well, no, we do have endurance already. So we already have everything, so this is kind of useless, but whatever. We have Iron Keys, which we don't know what that does yet. We have these Rune Bracers, which gives us brawling and endurance so long as we wear this, so we have that like there. Spirit's Blessing, once per day we may choose a skill which we gain for the remainder of the current quest or encounter. So that's something we can remember. And then we have a Spirit Mask and a Moon Mask. Time always slips through your feet. Yes, I did. No, I got it. I was a little late to the party there, but I finally figured out what we were doing. So that's what we got. So we are sitting up here at, I believe it is Fairfax Manor right there. And I'm going to run through this. Now, there are a lot of entries, but if I don't give you all these entries, it's not going to make sense. So I'm going to read through this. I'll do it as quickly as I can. This includes all of the choices that we made, chat. All of the choices that we made in the Paper Faces final adventure. So I want you to stick with me on this, okay? I'm going to run through this, and then when that's done, then we will be back to chat making its decisions, and we'll run through. So that's my plan as we go through Paper Faces. So let's fire up a little bit of music before we do that. Let's see. Give me a... do we have any kind of general adventure OST style music? Adventure OST, adventure game OST style music, that would be suited for something like this. Give me a good, like, role-playing / adventure background type of thing. Give me a good nomination for an OST. I'm going to jump over here and fix something quick. Okay. Well, the problem with the Lord of the Rings OST... No. Game, let me rephrase. Game OST. Because all that stuff is going to get copyright claimed. I had to spend actually a good 2 extra days fixing the Gran Turismo music thing because basically there were stupid copyright claims because a couple of the songs. There is apparently a broadcast mode that they added, which I've now enabled, so they'll take away any music that could come up with copyright claims. So in future we won't have that problem, but this was a problem. So yeah, not movies. All of those soundtracks you came up with are great, by the way. Last of the Mohicans is badass, Master and Commander is badass, Lord of the Rings OST is badass, but we need game OSTs. So think about game OSTs. What have we got in terms of a role-playing game style or adventure game style OST? Think about that. Dragon Age. That's a good one. It's a good one, Prince Justin. It actually really fits the theme, too. That's good. That is a good call. Well done. Makes sense. Totally agree. Okay. Let's go with that.
While Washington bickers here in
No.
Connecticut...
Silence. I agree with you, Governor Ned Lamont, but not now. No, Game OSTs do not usually come up with copyright claims, and even when they do on rare occasions, it's very rare, and it doesn't. It's usually relatively easy to be dealt with. Movie OSTs are a whole different matter, sadly. Very, very good choice, Prince Justin. This is a good one. Okay, now compare this to the sound of my voice, folks. Does this work? Totally, CQ. How's this relative to my voice? Is this okay? Too loud? Yeah, no, they're reasonably cool here on Twitch, although, again, reasonably, you know. How very, very funny, Dragon. Okay. All right, good. Let's make it happen. So here we go. So again, chat, I apologize. There's going to be a lot of reading up front so I can get us caught up. I'll try to move through it quickly. So here we go. So the first act of this quest represents the Masquerade Ball, which is a lavish social event hosted by Lady Regina Fairfax for the villagers of Dragonholt and the nobles of Dragonholt, Rostam, and Haverford counties to mingle without their identities or social standing interfering. During this first act, awning has been erected outside the manor's front door, curtained off to transform the space into a foyer. A human woman in black and white livery wearing a black domino mask stands before the door, and she bows to you as you arrive. "Welcome," she says. "The Countess requests that you please don your mask before you enter." She gestures to one side where a curtain hangs to provide some privacy. If you did not bring a mask, her ladyship has provided several for your use. Boy, does this hit differently these days, people, right? You played yourself, Prince Justin. Man, hits differently. You step behind the curtain and find several white domino masks similar to the servants in a variety of sizes. So, we had a choice, actually, of one of the provided masks, or the moon mask or the spirit mask, because we had both of those. But what we ended up doing was, we ended up going with, I believe, the R6. So we ended up doing, no, that's not right. T6 or R7? R7. Okay, so we ended up putting on the moon mask. So this is the mask that chat chose. Whoops. That was the moon mask that we ended up choosing. Okay. So we put on the moon mask, and that brought us to entry 1357. All right. You adjust your mask and step through the door into the manor's grand hall. Lanterns have been strung from colored ropes above you, giving the space a brightness and light you seldom seen, even in daylight. Excited guests in masks of all shapes and sizes crowd the floor, already overflowing into the tables set aside for food and relaxation. Several liveried staff move to and fro through the crowd carrying trays or bottles. Each wears a plain black domino, just like the woman at the door. Some of the staff are wearing swords at their hips and mail beneath their livery, ushering guests to and from various rooms of the house. The crowd is brightly colored and in constant motion, making it difficult to pick out individual figures, but you do spy a few you think you recognize. A gnome woman stands near the windows, chattering with a cluster of other guests. She wears a mask painted with blue swirling designs and a butterfly ornament set with a blue gemstone cleverly perched at her right temple. A dwarf man sits against the wall to your right, his mask sporting black and white checks and a gold trim. A small dwarf girl clings to his leg, her mask a ruff of feathers styled to look like an owl. Standing just to your left is a tall orc woman with a plain black mask. Standing at her side is a gnome woman with a flamboyant mask, a curl of immense red and pink feathers fluttering well above her head. The orc laughs at something the gnome says, then glances in your direction and pauses. After a moment, she touches the gnome on the shoulder and crosses the floor to you in 3 long strides. Unknown, known, gnome, woman, exactly. Well, we know this orc and this gnome. These are 2 people that we've seen. They got married to each other. We went to the wedding. It was all very cool. "You're here," says the orc woman. "I'm glad. I don't think we've anything to worry about. There are guards massed and mingled throughout the crowd, including some from the Belmonts and Cunninghams, but I'm always happy to have you to hand." She smiles at you, then glances down as the wavering feathers of her gnome companion appear at her side. "You should try to enjoy the party," says the orc. "Leave protecting the guests to me and the other guards." Not before I get a dance out of you, says the gnome, leaning back and shoving her feathers aside with one hand in order to see the orc's face. A proper one. So this is Miriam the gnome. So we then called her out. We said, "Good evening, Miriam." And Miriam said, "Good evening," said the gnome happily. The orc smirks. Who's this Miriam lady? I'm sure I don't know her. She sounds like a wonderful person." The masked orc chuckles as the gnome continues. "I'm honored that you, a stranger, would mistake me for this Miriam I've heard so much about." "I thought you didn't know who she is," interrupts the orc. The gnome glares up at the orc. "Did I say that? Goodness, I think it's time for a dance." With that, the gnome takes the orc by the hand and drags her. Well, the orc allows herself to be dragged toward the dance floor. Okay, then we went to 1528. The crowd stills as a chime rings out, silver on glass, coming from the balcony overlooking the grand hall. A tall, Etherean human woman in a resplendent green gown and a quartered black and white dragon mask steps forward on the balcony to address the guests. "Welcome to the annual Three Lords Ball," she says in a voice that feels quiet but nonetheless fills the hall. "Tonight we celebrate the alliance of three noble houses, House Cunningham," and here a group of men and women in mainly blue and gold cheer from where they cluster near the garden door. "House Belmont," another cheer, this from a group of people in red and white close to the musicians, and of course House Fairfax. "Our relationship remains unique in the barony, I believe, stretching back some 10 generations to the union of the three lords on the battlefield against the shambling undead hordes that threatened us all. By working together then, we showed that we were stronger than the forces that would tear us apart." She raises her glass where the wine within sparkles in the lantern light. "Tonight, we celebrate that relationship and join together once more. Eat, dance, be merry. Together we will always be stronger than the darkness." The crowd cheers, but the woman's glass drops from her fingers, falling over the edge of the balcony to shatter on the floor far below. She staggers and begins to fall back, before being caught at each elbow by a human man in a black domino mask and a human woman in a mask angled and stylized to resemble a knight's helm. For a moment the crowd holds its breath, and then the woman in the dragon mask steps forward once more, now clutching the arms of her two supporters. Now it asked us whether story point 06 was marked, and it was, which is why we moved on to entry 1904. What's up, Rockod? Yeah, someday, CQ, someday. Someday. But it would be foolish to pretend that the darkness is not present. We mourn tonight the lives of two of our own taken from us before their time. She gestures down to the hall floor where a table sits on one side, occupied by no one. A pair of masks rest on the table. One mask is flocked with pure white wool and styled to resemble a lamb. The other is elegant, with fine patterns and an intricate wire butterfly wing that extends over half of what would be the wearer's face. Each mask is surrounded by white roses and other cut flowers, with the occasional talisman or scrap of paper laid by mourners and guests. It reminds you of nothing so much as the Tree of Tales, a gathering of mementos to memorialize the fallen. Make no mistake, the darkness that claimed these young people is a threat to us all. If left unchecked, it will spread and throw us all into chaos. The woman bows her head and grips the hands of her supporters tightly. A moment of silence, please, for those we've lost. That was the two of the kids that we lost during the rest of the adventure. Silence settles over the assemblage like a snowfall. Heads bow and stillness reigns. Then the woman in the dragon mask lifts her head and speaks again, her voice stronger, brighter. And now it is time to celebrate. We celebrate the lives lost and those yet living. We are the light against the darkness. Make merry, my friends, and let your light shine. Thank you. The crowd cheers, the minstrels strike up a tune, and the hall is once again awash in merriment and fellowship. Okay, now we looked to see if story point G5 was marked. It was not, so we went on to 2567. For those of you just coming in, what I'm doing is reading through all of the entries, because we're about halfway through this final book on the final day, but honestly, none of us remembered exactly what happened, so I'm reading this to make sure that we're caught up. These are all the decisions that chat made. Once we have this, then we'll kick back in with the chat making decisions, and we should be able to get through this easily tonight. So just letting you know what we're doing. I'm sorry there's a lot of reading up front. It's interesting reading, though, I think. With no immediate demands on your attention, you take a moment to watch the crowd and survey the room. With the speeches out of the way, the guests are spreading throughout the manor. The minstrels, perched on the spiral stair overlooking the west side of the hall, are dashing out a lively tune on lute, pipes, tabor, and harp. About a dozen couples whirl and prance in a complicated quadrille on the dance floor, forming and reforming into ever-evolving patterns as they move. Many guests are clustered by the banquet table at the head of the hall, helping themselves to platters of food and settling in at nearby tables to eat. It's an unusual arrangement, but probably the only way to feed the large number of guests present in the space available. You note two humans, a man and woman in stag and doe masks, talking in low tones near the table, watching the rest of the crowd. The woman in the dragon mask remains on the balcony overlooking the hall, where she is now surrounded by guests who you take to be other nobles. A tall human mask with a half mask of blue and gold checks is leaning over the edge of the balcony, scratching a small jeweled drake under its scaly chin while the creature coos in contentment. A stout human man with a bushy red beard and wearing a mask of red silk with a white rose at one temple leans in closely to the woman in the black and white dragon mask, talking less privately than he seems to think. The doors to the garden are open, and you can see lanterns dotting the greenery. Several guests have already fled the noise and bustle of the main hall to walk in the garden alone or in pairs, where the pools of shadow and many twists and turns of the path provide privacy. At least one couple is walking hand in hand, clearly out for a romantic evening stroll. Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I just know it's a lot of reading at once, but... Okay, so what we did was we approached the dragon woman and her entourage. The group of nobles on the balcony sprawls down the staircase, sorting themselves higher or lower on the stair, presumably based on rank. At the head of the stair stands the woman with the black and white dragon mask. Leaning over the balcony rail at her side is a tall human man in a mask with blue and gold checks. A chirping drake flutters its leathery wings while perched on his hand. A step below the woman in the dragon mask is a stout human man with a mask of red silk with a white rose at his temple. His bushy red beard burns brightly against the black of his velvet tunic. Below the man in the red mask stands a slender elf woman with a crescent moon mask in conversation with a brown-skinned human woman whose mask resembles a knight's helm with a crown of black feathers. Still more well-to-do partygoers spill down the steps, some climbing up or down in their pursuit of food, dancing, or gossip. Some of the guests linger by the table covered in flowers long enough to lay one of their own upon it, or just to touch the mask in the center and bow their heads for a silent moment. Then they move on. And so what we did was we approached the table surrounded by flowers. And there what we saw was, as you step up towards the table, a tall, broad-shouldered human man briefly blocks your view. He pauses over the flowers for a moment, then walks away without a backward glance. You step up to examine the table and its flowers more closely. We looked again, and we found two masks lay on the table, one made of lamb's wool and the other incorporating a butterfly wing design. White roses form a dense carpet on the table, interrupting here and there by small mementos and rolled pieces of paper, trinkets and gifts for the departed. In the center of the table rests a sprig of purple flowers like violet bells, monkshood, resting on the very top of the pile. At the near edge lies an ink pot and a loose stack of blank paper for guests to write their own missives. And what we did then was we wrote a heartfelt message to the spirits. You take up a quill and parchment to write something, not quite knowing what you're going to say. But soon your hand finds the words your heart struggled with, and a eulogy, part prayer, part promise, spills easily from your pen. An elf woman in a crescent moon mask appears at your elbow as you sign your work, nodding in approval. She hands you a single white rose, then places one herself on the table. You let your missive dry for a moment, then wrap it around the rose and place it on the table as well. And if I can't get my... The one problem with this is that I have to be very careful. Is that better? Yes. I have to be very careful to not bang my head on this thing. And at the same time, if I don't lean back a little bit, it's going to be uncomfortable for your friendly neighborhood streamer Arv. So, right, where was I? Blah, 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 blah. Yes. Perhaps the spirits will read it and approve of your message. You know only that you feel lighter somehow for having written it. Okay, so we did that. Then we paused a moment to collect ourselves, get a drink of water from a passing servant in a black mask. Revelers surround you and the masquerade shows no signs of slowing down. Time passes, and so then we went back to 1147. We had a good view of the proceedings, and the next thing that we decided to do was chat decided that we would go into the garden, I believe is what we decided to do next. Yes, we ventured out to the garden. I have, music stand? I guess so. I'd have to get it out, but... Well, I mean, I'm sorry that obviously that you broke your footprints, Justin, but I guess I'm glad in a way that there was a silver lining to that cloud because it's been great to have you here. So I'm very glad about that. Okay. So, blah, 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 blah. Later for having written it. Right. The garden. The garden is cool and dark. And we're about halfway through the recap. Garden is cool and dark with only a small handful of lanterns glimmering softly to light the paths. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves and washes across your skin, bringing with it the sweet scent of flowers. The dark silhouette of a large oak tree stands in the center of the garden, the moon silvery behind it. It towers above the hedges that mark off its space. On the right along the manor wall and near the door to the kitchen is a vegetable garden, pragmatic but not precisely beautiful. To your left, behind another hedge, you can hear the tinkling of a running brook feeding a pond. Directly in front of you, an arched trellis climbs with flowering vines. Beyond it lies a rambling footpath marked with occasional stone lanterns, benches screened by tall shrubs, and flowers blooming in the moonlight. And what Chat decided to do was to go to the vegetable garden. Because, of course, why wouldn't you go to the vegetable garden? The vegetable garden is quiet and lit only by moonlight and the smell of light from the manor. Carrots and cabbage, beets and broccoli, parsnip and peas, and other vegetables grow in rows in raised beds of rich-smelling dark earth surrounded by gray stones. Rusty red pots bracket the beds and march along the manor wall, filled with basil, hyssop, and other herbs. The entire garden is surrounded by a weathered wooden fence and waving stalks of lavender and bee balm. So we looked, story point K8 was marked, so we read entry 7738. And that meant we step in to examine the garden more closely. The crops are all growing well with no sign of blight or illness. T6 was not marked, so that meant that we read 6846. You spend a few calming minutes digging in the rich soil of the garden, plucking the few weeds you find, and enjoying the rich smells and gentle breathing of the plants. Then, I think we went back to the garden as a whole, I'm guessing. Oh yeah, we went back, got a drink of water, time passed, and then we went back to 1147. We decided where to go, and this time we mingled near the banquet table to try the food. And that was the food, 5335, okay. The smell from the banquet table takes hold of you and drags you closer. Steam rises from a heavy earthenware dish decorated with ram's horns, where joints of mutton falling off the bone lie on a bed of roasted tubers and shallots. Duck stuffed with spices lie at either end of the table, roasted to a rich golden brown. Sides of the table are piled high with crisp apples and wheels of white cheese, bowls of deep purple plums, jars of pickled cabbage and onions, dishes of roasted vegetables of every description. Baskets of bread and urns of creamy butter and sweet jams are crammed into what little table space remains. A table to one side holds a collection of pastries and cakes, as well as a small side dish of candied nuts and fruit. Black masked staff flit in and out of the kitchen, frantically replacing food as fast as the guests consume it. As you help yourself to your favorite dishes, you notice several other guests loitering near the banquet table. A small group is centered around a tall human man with a stag mask and a human woman with her mask styled to resemble a doe. At the other end of the table, a human man in a plain black mask is spinning a yarn of valiant chivalry to an audience that seems half amused and half annoyed. Just to your left, a gnome woman whose mask sports an almost dangerously long plume of red feathers carefully loads food onto her plate. Yeah, same, Triffit, same. I actually ended up having, Little Arv and I ended up having some good Greek food today, so that was cool. All right, loads food onto her plate. Oh, by the way, Chad, so Little Arv found out yesterday that she got into a bunch of other schools that she was hoping to get into. And now she only has one school remaining, and the school that's the one remaining is the one that she really, really wants to get into. So I'm knocking on wood, heavily. That's the last one to be heard from. And so if she hears about this in the next few days, then it's all in. Like, we're all in like Flynn. It's all gravy. So it's just a matter of hearing from that last one. But she's gotten into every school, literally every school that she's applied to. She's gotten in with one exception that turned her down and one exception where she was waitlisted. And everything else she got into, which is pretty sweet. So yes, thank you. Knocking on wood. Like, seriously, this place that I'm thinking of would be really, really great. So I'll let you folks know if that happens, but that just wanted to keep you updated. Okay. Okay, so chat decided to listen to the man in the black mask tell his tales. You help yourself to a small plate of your favorites and drift over towards where the man in the black mask holds his audience spellbound, or at least bound by the laws of politeness. The man's story seems unlikely as he describes single-handedly fighting off a horde of bandits to rescue a single small goat. The surprising part is that some of his listeners are nodding and gasping at the right moments as if they actually believe him. So we decided that we would subtly imply that the man's tales are false. You interject with your own version of events describing a goat chasing the man in the black mask into a blackberry bush. You make out the sounds of his approaching rescuers to be so startling to him that he imagined them as bandits and attempted to chase them off until the goat chased back out of the blackberry bush and into a crowd of jeering children. "Now that sounds believable," hoots a human woman in a sheepskin vest with a mask of autumn leaves. "I believe you've been misinformed," sniffs the man in the black mask, but it's too late. His audience has turned against him. Alright, and now ruining that guy's day. We went back, we again took another drink, time passed again, then we went back to, 1147. And then from 1147, this time we decided to go to the Dragon Woman again and her entourage. No, I've already read this. This is the people who are basically, the Dragon Mask is the one who gave the speech, probably Lady Regina Fairfax, that whole crew. So this time around, we lingered nearby and eavesdropped on the balcony, and we're almost done with the recap chat. "Another 2 families last month, and I'll lose a half dozen more when harvest is over," complains the human man with the bushy red beard. "They're all moving to your lands. I'll have farms going fallow, and who'll replace their taxes in my coffers, "They're not serfs, my lord," said the woman with the dragon mask. "If they're leaving your lands for mine, that's their choice. Perhaps you should spend more time thinking of ways to encourage them to stay, and less time blaming me for your problems." The human man with the drake coiled around his arm chirps, and the drake suddenly flutters out into the air above the dancers below. "Dragonholt's prosperity can help us all," he says. "Oh, so you were listening all along," grumbles the bearded man in the red mask. "I was. Your mistake is seeing Dragonholt as competition rather than finding ways to benefit. In my county, I've shifted the market day to the middle of the week. That way, merchants don't have to choose between 2 markets, but can visit them both. And some of those rich travelers who are flocking to Countess Fairfax's streets are passing through my lands on their way home. We both win that way." He shrugs as his drake returns to coil around his arm again, proffering up a small morsel of something in his free hand for the creature to eat. It flares its iridescent ruff of scales and coos, darting in at the food like a striking serpent. "Well, we can't very well both shift our market day, or we're right back to the same problem, aren't we?" grumbles the man with the beard. He turns to the woman with the dragon mask and points one thick finger. "You need to bar my peasants from settling on your land." "I'll do nothing of the sort, my lord," she says with a flick of her fingers. "Our families have been intertwined for generations, and so have theirs. You'd have me sunder brother from sister, grandparents from their grandchildren." "Leave off, Leon," says the tall man with the drake. "Tonight isn't the time for this discussion." The man with the bushy beard huffs, takes a drink of wine and fumes over the balcony. You move on. Alright, so then we were back to 1118. We're just about there now. This time around, again, time passed, blah, blah, blah. And this time, enough time passed that we had to switch it up. A shriek tears through the music and commotion like a talon through lace. Screaming comes from the stairs up to the balcony, and panicked guests go screaming past you, rushing for the door. The ghostly figure of a young human woman mourns in midair over the stairs. The woman's skin is dark, her hair a riot of golden curls, and she wears her dress worn bunched at one hip for riding. Color fades in and out as she moves, flickering in the air, and blood spatters across her face. Celeste removes her crescent moon mask and gasps. Sonia! She steps toward the ghost, holding the mask over her breast as if to guard herself. Sonia, talk to us! He sabotaged my saddle, moans the ghost. Kirik, my own uncle! She moans and floats out over the crowd, where a sudden circle appears around a tall human man. You wanted my mother's seat, and you were willing to kill me to get it, uncle. The tall man removes his mask, revealing the scarred face of the bandit leader. I did not, he shouts. That idiot stablemaster acted without my orders. He pulls away from the specter, but finds his path blocked by a broad-shouldered orc woman in a black mask. Braxton throws her mask aside and draws her sword. On the balcony above, Regina removes her black and white dragon mask, and Rochelle doffs her faux knight's helm. Remember that Rochelle is Regina's last surviving child. Both seem several shades paler than normal, transfixed by the sight of Sonia's ghost. Regina, calls Kirik. I never intended for things to get this out of hand. The spirits hate a kinslayer. All right, so read entry 3174. And yes, I totally agree with you, CQ. 3174. A ghostly hand claps Kirik on the shoulder, and he turns to find himself staring into Philip's dead face. That's the other son of Regina. But a kinslayer you are, uncle, says the second ghost. You murdered me. We quarreled, and a quarrel ended my life. The ghost glances down at his chest, where a spectral crossbow bolt protrudes in a spreading field of red blood. No, groans Kirik, staggering back. Murderer, shouts Sonia's ghost. Abductor, brigand, and kinslayer, howls Philip's ghost. I never meant for any of this to happen, screams Kirik. And that now brings us to the present. So here we go, chat. Now we're back on. So, here's what happened. Battle is joined. The first act ends here. From now on... Okay, that doesn't matter because we're playing with one hero. Braxton steps forward and throws Kirik to the ground. She levels her sword at him. Kirik Fairfax, she growls. You are under arrest for treason. The other Fairfaxes walk forward, Regina leading the way with Timothy hovering at her side. Brother, I think you can understand why, under the circumstances, I do not consider you an invited guest. Let's throw him in a cell, says Rochelle. One hand drops to the hilt of her sword, and the other hikes up her ruffled skirts to free her movement. Dame Braxton, would you be so kind? Of course, my lady, says the orc, hauling Kirik to his feet. Rochelle watches her uncle warily. Behind her, you see a human woman in a Red Riding costume and skull mask draw a long dagger and pad forward, the knife held flat against her arm. An assassin. It seems no one else has spotted her. All right, chat, first decision of the night, so here we go. We have a couple of choices here. We could shout a warning to Rochelle. We could spring forward to protect her. Or, let me see if we can do that last. I don't think we have a frost rune. So we have basically two choices. So what I'm going to do is, this is really simple. I'm just going to open a poll that's going to give us two options. So choice one is shout a warning to Rochelle. Choice two is spring forward to protect her. And remember that we do have agility, we have awareness, we have athletics, so we have a lot of stuff that might allow us to move quickly. So $vote space 1 if you want to shout a warning, $vote space 2 if you want to spring forward to protect her. And I'm sorry about that long preamble, but now we're all caught up. Now I actually remember what the hell's going on. Needed to get water after that. A lot of reading all at once. Seriously? Oh, it's so annoying. Good music for this moment, too. Sorry, chat. Having to reconfigure my legs. Okay, good. We're set. Okay, cool. Hey, Garlic. All right, it looks like people want to spring forward. I'm going to last call. Looks like people want to spring forward for this. With our good friend Harriet here. Harriet. Yes. No, but quite right. Harriet. All right. So, option 2. We're going to spring forward to protect her. Okay, that's entry 1944. Boy, thank goodness that we did keep these notes. Can you imagine if we hadn't done that? Like, I would have no clue. All right. You dash forward, drawing your weapon as you go. Rochelle sees you moving and draws her own sword as the assassin strikes. If you have agility, and we do, and by the way, this agility was disabled, but we got it undisabled before this through doing something. I don't remember what, but it's a good thing. So we have agility, which means we can read entry 3676. You throw yourself into a slide and knock the dagger from the assassin's hand just before it sinks into Rochelle's unprotected back. You sweep out a leg and knock the assassin flat on her back as you scramble back to your feet. Rochelle steps up and holds her attacker at sword point on the ground. Thank you, she says to you. Using a cat's paw doesn't make you any less of a murderer, uncle. This bastard. This punk. Alright, 3968. Kirik slashes at Braxton with a knife. More like a save password, it's true. Kirik slashes at Braxton with a knife, breaking away. There's no turning back now, he calls. A number of partygoers throw off their masks and draw a motley assortment of hooked knives, cudgels set with nails, and other weapons made as much for cruelty as effect. This is like the scene in Batman Begins, where the League of Shadows, like Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows basically comes to Bruce Wayne's house and like threatens to kill all the party people. Sonia's ghost shrieks as the remaining guests cry out in fear and begin running for the exits, where more bandits come streaming in. The ghost rises above them, her cries rising higher and higher until a knife flashes through her and she vanishes. Kill them all, spits Kirik, and may we all be damned for it. Great. 5 bandits rush forward, heading for Rochelle and her mother. Braxton steps forward and lashes out at the lead bandit, sending him staggering, but the other 4 rush past her like water. Rochelle shoves her mother behind her, holding her sword in a low grip. You get to her past my corpse, she hisses. That's the idea, princess, chuckles the bandit in front, a lean, dark-skinned woman with dramatic patterns shaved into her hair. The screaming crowd parts, and a woman in Fairfax livery shoves to the front, tossing aside her black domino mask. The surly guard, Talia. You vermin are going to make me earn my pay tonight, aren't you? She snaps, drawing her sword. Then she rushes forward and scatters the bandits with a swing of her blade. More bandits fight their way through the fleeting guests, moving to surround you. Rochelle shifts to and fro, desperately trying to stay between all of them and her mother. Alright, 4 choices. One of them is cut a path through the enemy. Second is charge headlong at the bandits. Third is blast the flanking bandits away, but we don't have Arcana or runes, so that's not going to work. Or inspire our fellows with bardic song, which requires performance, which we don't have either. So, I guess we could theoretically, because we do have... we do have this this potion. What the heck was this thing? This, the Spirit Blessings. We do have this, which allows us to choose 1 skill, which we gain for the remainder of the current quest or encounter. We could do that, but I don't know that either of those is really that beneficial. So, I'm not sure. Yeah. That is true. I do like that. Yeah, I'm a fan of Batman Begins. So I'm gonna say, chat, unless there's a big objection and people want to try to pick up another skill of these 2, I'm gonna give us again another 2 choices, which is to cut a path through the enemy or charge headlong at the bandits. And remember, with Harriet, skills really matter here. So these are the skills we have. We've got awareness, agility, stealth, athletics, survival, archery, brawling, persuasion, streetwise, and endurance. So those are the things we have. Given that, do we want to choice 1, cut a path through the enemy, or choice 2, charge headlong at the bandits? What are our choices? Because we do not have military or anything like that. Do we cut a path through the enemy or charge headlong? Vote 1 is cut a path, vote 2 is charge headlong. Right, she's reckless. I was trying to decide which of these is the more reckless option. You know? And I wasn't sure what that would actually be. I could see arguments for either one. Can I charge with my right foot first? Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think they both seem like they're both aggressive, right? I guess the question is which is, and I probably the charge is reckless. Yeah, that could be. That might be a good way to look at it. Yeah. I'm gonna last call this. We're tied up, folks. Tied up 2-2. Da, 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 ba, 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 ba. All right, going once, going twice. All right. It is going to be charging headlong at the bandits. So that's 74, 78. Okay. With no plan to speak of, that sounds like Harriet. With no plan to speak of, you scream as loud as you can and run straight at the closest bandits. A human man in Fairfax livery, the long-winded guard Deacon, runs to your side. Aha! He bellows. Have at thee, filthy bandits. We'll make short work of you. The bandits shift back and close ranks, forgetting the Countess and her daughter for a moment to focus on this new, much louder threat. If you have brawling or devotion, we don't have devotion, but we sure do have brawling. It's all about the brawling, baby. Deacon does not live up to his boasts and tall tales. His first strike missing completely and his sword getting lost in the banquet table. Oh, nice job, Deacon. The bandits write him off as incompetent and turn to focus on you. Their mistake. Their mistake. The first bandit lunges at you with a hooked knife, which soon becomes your hooked knife, as he lies screaming on the ground and clutching his broken hands. We're just like, Gah! The second bandit trips over your leg and finds a knife in his back, and the third falls on top of him after you punch him in the throat. I love it. The fourth and fifth bandits prove more difficult to defeat, spreading out and jabbing at you with short swords to keep you at bay. Just as you're getting concerned that you won't be able to attack one without taking a lethal wound from the other, Deacon cries, "Aha!" and staggers back, his sword now free. A platter of roast duck goes flying through the air, launched by the vigor with which he pulled his sword out of the wood of the banquet table, and lands squarely on the head of one of your attackers. Well, good job, Deacon. Offering up a quick prayer of thanks to the spirits, you drive the heel of your hand into the solar plexus of the fifth dumbfounded bandit. Well, it seems like this was the right call. All right, 47-31. You have a moment's peace and regrope with the Fairfaxes, Timothy, Braxton, Merriam, and the three guards, Tweagle, Talia, and Deacon. The bandits hang back, but every moment more filter through doors or out of the rapidly thinning crowd. We cannot stay here, says Braxton. We have no cover and are badly outnumbered. Aye, the young knight has the right of it, mutters Tweagle. We must move or die. He jerks his head at the stone stair behind you. Up into the tower. It's the only part of the manor grounds that are fortified at all. You realize that the eastern wing of the manor house is, in fact, an old stone tower, and the balcony overlooking the ballroom would be a fairly defensible position. The garden, suggests Timothy, his voice ragged. We'll be trapped in the tower. In the garden, we can use the hedges to our advantage, and we'll have room to run if we need to. The gardens border directly on the orchards surrounding the village. Although its hedges offer some protection, the true safety in that direction might be to slip into the trees in the darkness and hope for the best. Tweagle and Braxton share a glance, then look to you for decision. All right, chat. Do we go up the stairs to the balcony? That's choice 1. Or do we go out to the garden? So, vote 1 if you want to go up the stairs to the balcony. Vote 2 if you want to go out to the garden. He sent those bandits a bill. Oh my god. His attack was most foul. Yeah, there was a foul tactic. It looks like Deacon was not all he was quacked up to be. I'm going to duck doing any puns. Yeah, well, you know, birds of a feather and all that. Puns are a party foul. Oh, nice, nice. What do you think will happen if you start this pun war? Last call on this. He will be punching. All right, we are going out to the garden. We got to get ourselves out to the garden. By the time we got to the Fairfaxes. 1959. All right, do it, snaps Rochelle. Braxton, Talea with me. We'll give them some cover. The group moves towards the garden as Braxton, Rochelle, and Talea launch a concerted attack on the bandits, driving them back and giving you room to maneuver. Regina and Timothy soon pass through the doors to the garden, and the others follow one by one. By the time we got to Dragonholt, we were half a character strong. And everywhere was a song and a celebration. And I dreamed the chat was making those emotes. Anyway. Soon enough, you, Braxton, and Rochelle are the last ones standing in the doorway. You fall back into the garden and find yourselves confronted by another group of bandits, cutting you off from the hedge maze beyond where Talea and Celise stand fending off any pursuit. 4 bandits lie between you and the hedge, led by a lean brown human woman with dramatic patterns shaved into her hair. Get the noble girl, sneers the lead bandit. Carrick's paying 100 gold to the one who cuts her down. Try it, hisses Rochelle, her knuckles whitening on the hilt of her sword. All right, so we have to get back to the group, says Braxton, shifting to keep her focus on the bandits now moving to encircle you. All right, we have 3 choices here, chat. I'm going to have to move to my keyboard to do this one. 3 choices. Because one of them the 4th choice involves making an icy barrier, but we're not a mage, we don't have frost runes. So, we can either fend off the bandits while Rochelle clears a path, support the 2 fighters with tactical advice, or fire from afar while the others engaged, which requires archery, and we do have that. So, our choices are going to be... Our choices again are... Choices are... Fend off the bandits while Rochelle clears a path. Can you imagine Harriet supporting the 2 fighters with tactical advice? Well, what I would do is charge them. Like, what? Like, really? Alright, there we go. So here we go. There are your choices, chat. Fend off the bandits while Rochelle clears a path. Support the 2 fighters with tactical advice. Or fire from afar while the others engage, needing archery. We have archery. So we can do that. We do have archery. We do have that skill. This music is happening during the moment where like Harriet's deciding this, right? It's the slow-mo montage moment where she's like reaching for a bow and she's like her arrow and she's like, and like there's some dramatic flower petals flying past her face, right? Where she's like, you know? Whoops. Yeah, exactly. Super slow-mo. All right, and... Okay. All right, so we're going to fire away. It says you must also fire, you must also have arrows. God damn it. No, it doesn't say that. Okay, 88:55. You knock an arrow and draw. Braxton and Rochelle stand at your side, guarding you from any bandits that might threaten as you line up your shot at the bandits between you and the hedge maze. If you have deception, we don't have that, or persuasion, and we did pick up persuasion, chat. We didn't have that at the beginning of the game, but we did pick that bad boy up. So, we do have the skill of persuasion. I don't know what you're going to do to persuade the arrow, but... Your first arrow hits a dwarf bandit with her hair shaved into a single tall black stripe, striking her in the leg and sending her toppling to the ground. The second arrow slashes open the shoulder of a broad-chested human man with a hooked nose, who holds up his dagger as if it might help as he retreats. While the remaining bandits waver with indecision, Talia and Salish shout and rush forward. The bandits fall back and all of you flee into the hedge maze, where the bandits will have to come down a narrow corridor to follow. Okay? I like that. I like everything that I've heard there. You stop at the first turning of the maze to dissuade any further pursuit, while the others continue... I guess they were persuading him with their leg. Yeah, exactly. While the others continue deeper into the garden. Before you can follow them, a bandit comes swaggering between the hedges, swinging a hooked sword with casual arrogance. "Come out here and fight me, you coward," he calls around a mouthful of sharp teeth. He's an elf man with skin so pale it almost seems translucent. "Your countess can't hide behind your skirts forever, not if she wants to keep the respect of her people." Before you can respond to either the challenge or the insults, the elf leaps to the attack, his sword flashing in a deadly arc. So, we can either... Now, we can't use Arcana because we don't have that, so... We can either meet his assault with a clash of steel, or use the terrain to our advantage. So I'm going to open that up. $vote space 1 is meet his assault with a clash of steel. $vote space 2 is use the terrain to your advantage. So this, again, these are the skills. You have to think about what's likely to be used in either case. We have awareness, agility, stealth, athletics, survival, archery, brawling, persuasion, streetwise, and endurance. So with all of that said, what do you want to do? Do you want to meet his assault with a clash of steel? Or do you want to use the terrain to your advantage? $vote 1 for a clash of steel, $vote 2 for terrain. Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's true, CQ. That's true. That's true. Now, you know, theoretically, if we get in a tough spot, we can use our Spirit's Blessing. Like, I don't think we use it yet, but we can use our Spirit's Blessing to pick up a skill if we need to. That's our ace in the hole, so... Yeah, it could be. It could be CQ. I honestly don't know. All right, we're going to last call this. Oh, oh, oh. All right, going once, going twice. Oh my goodness. Change vote. Sorry. All right, well, I literally closed it just as we were doing that, so it's 2-2. So I need someone else to vote. Sorry, folks. I need to It's 2-2, so I need someone else to vote. It's not going to register, but I'll just take it in there. So either change vote or to vote, because we have a draw. That literally was happening as I was closing it. Thank you, Buglish. So vote 1. Okay, and Prince Justin changed vote 1. Okay, cool. So we have the vote. So that changes it up to Clash of Steel. Yeah, I think this is very tough either way. Like, you know. Okay, 11:58. Alright. As the bandit rushes forward, you find yourself standing at the edge of a pond fed by a babbling stream and surrounded by hedges. A wooden footbridge spans the pond, and the others have already retreated across it, so you make your stand there. Going to fight me by water, eh? Leers the elf. You know they call me Shark. He lifts his sword and battle is joined. Now, the two choices. Oh my god. Dun dun dun. Buglish has been given a gift sub. Thank you, Configuration Queen, for the gift. Thank you, CQ, for gifting a tier 1 sub. 16 gift subs you've given. Thank you so much, CQ. That's very generous of you. Thank you. And welcome back to the Arvanauts subscriber list, Buglish. Enjoy the emotes and so on. Thanks, CQ. Thank you, thank you. That's really generous. Thank you. Okay. 11:58. So, dueling or willpower. Now, here's the thing. We do not have dueling or willpower, but we do have this Spirit's Blessing. Once per day, and this is certainly once per day, we can choose one skill which we gain for the remainder of the current quest. So for the remainder of this, we could pick up one of these. So we could do that. And if so, we could choose either dueling or willpower. I'm wondering whether willpower is the one to get, but we'll see. So the question I have, chat, is two things. First, I'm going to open a poll and say, should we use the Spirit's Blessing? And if so, what should we use it for, willpower or dueling? So I'm going to open this up. $vote space 1 if we should use it, and then tell me which one, willpower or dueling. $vote space 2 if we should not use it now. So $sign vote, and remember, we get it for the rest of the encounter once we have this. And Triffid, which one? So $vote 1, willpower or dueling? Willpower, CQ says. Willpower, Garlic Tofu says. Vote 2 says no. Rock God says vote 1, dueling. Yeah, I probably should have Rudnell. Oh well. Vote 1, willpower. But willpower as well. Okay. This is the $1, Rudnell. Also, Triffid, do you want willpower or dueling for this one? Dueling, okay. I think what we've got right now is like 4... It looks like most people except Buglish are in favor of using it. So we've got 1 dueling for Triffid, 1 willpower, so that's 1-1. 2 willpower for Garlic Tofu, so 2-1. Dueling, so 2-2. Arudinel, willpower, 3-2. Prince Justin, willpower, 4-2. Okay, because I got dueling up there. So 4-2. So last call. Last call. I already did that. Going once. Going twice. Alright. So it sounds... So we're using the Spirit's Blessing, which I certainly approve of, and we have gained willpower. Via Spirit's Blessing. Okay. All right, so we have willpower, so that's 2507. The footbridge echoes like a drum as you and Shark battle back and forth across it. Your companions cheer you on from behind you, and a smattering of bandits do the same for Shark from his side of the pond. You fight carefully and let Shark imagine he's driving you back across the bridge. You knock a few of his strikes aside, biting into the guardrail on the side of the bridge and sending bright chips of wood flying into the dark water below. At length, you've reached the far side of the bridge where you suddenly shift your momentum and begin to drive Shark back. Then suddenly you catch his weapon with yours, knock it aside, and kick him against the now weakened guardrail. It gives way with a crash and Shark goes flying into the pond. The poor footbridge, abused beyond anything it was built to take, collapses soon after as you leap back to your side of the water. You retreat further into the hedge maze with your group as the bandits begin to wade across the pond. Alright, that's what I like to see. Entry 6602. I think that was the right call there, chat. After a few more twists and turns of the maze, you find yourself in a flower garden, awash with the scent of night-blooming moonflower and primrose. Celeste stands under a trellis of flowering vines, waiting for you as the others continue to retreat deeper into the maze. You can hear the sounds of pursuit, bandits howling for your blood and chasing you through the hedges. Just like old times, Celeste sighs, drawing a rapier. Her rune, bound in copper wire looped around two of her fingers, shimmers from her other palm. Alright, now we have 4 choices, but 2 of them are ones that we can't do. Alchemy, which we don't have, and runes, which we don't have. So, 2 choices. Either fend off the bandits along on the narrow path, or collapse the trellis upon the oncoming bandits. So, what do? Do we, choice 1, fend off the bandits on the narrow path? Choice 2, collapse the trellis upon the oncoming bandits. So $ vote 1 if you want to fend off the bandits on the narrow path. $ vote 2 if you want to collapse the trellis onto the oncoming bandits. We have some of chat that was thinking about the idea of collapse. But then we have a comeback for fend off the bandits. Very interesting, very interesting. All right, I'm going to last call this. Last call. Do we fend off the bandits on the narrow path, or do we collapse the trellis upon the oncoming bandits? Going once. Going twice. Okay, it is collapse the trellis. All right. They're going to be like, do you have the collapse trellis skill? I'm going to be like, no, not much-ish. Okay. All right. 7430. Celeste readies herself for battle, positioning herself in the center of the vine trellis to force the bandits to come at her one at a time. At least it's nicer than the sewers under Nericall, she allows. Then she glances at you, realizing that you've been studying the trellis the whole time. You've got that look. Are you about to do something clever? You smile. If you have craftsmanship or reasoning. Yeah, we are not so much on the craftsmanship and the reasoning. So that might be a problem. We can, like, yell at the trellis. Celise has no more time for wry remarks as the bandits come rushing at her, jabbing with rusty knives and serrated blades. You work as quickly as you can, removing key poles from both sides of the trellis structure, then pushing the whole thing over. Only it doesn't fall. You frown, examining the thing again to see what you missed, while Celise curses and falls back under the bandits' assault. As she does battle with a wiry human man with freckles and dead fish eyes, a larger orc man with crooked teeth dashes past, then swings his axe at your head. You pull back just in time to turn a fatal skull splitting into a painful gash across your nose. You lose 3 stamina. Yeah, break. Break! Oh, we actually were down to 12, actually, so now we're at 9. Okay. You scramble away as the bandit lifts his axe for an overhead swing, which cuts into the trellis above his head and apparently severs whatever last pin or pole was holding the whole assembly in place. The structure crashes down around him. You and Celise barely escape in time, leaving a twisted mass of wood and vines where there was once a clear path through the garden. Clever is fine, muttered Celise, but I do think that simplicity has its place, my dear. You jog deeper into the garden, toward the clearing with the great oak tree. Well, it was a little sloppy, but, but this is a powerful trellis. This is a tier 1 trellis here, or Rudnell. Know what I'm saying? Disparaging comments, the trellis, it's true. Trellises don't hold up like gazebos. That's true, that's true. Alright, so we did get away. As you reach the oak tree in its hedged-in clearing, you hear shouting and the sounds of battle. Emerging from one of the other gaps in the hedge, bandits in rougher costume, armed with swords and bows, have your companions pressed back against the tree. No, shouts Celise, rushing forward to lash out with her brilliant rune. You see Braxton shielding Regina with her body and blade, 2 bandits already at her feet. Marianne has scrambled up into the oak tree and is throwing bottles and vials of various noxious and unpleasant things down upon the bandits as they approach. I didn't pack my fight for your life bag this morning, she calls. I'm nearly out of tricks. You run forward to Rochelle's side where she stands over the fallen form of the orc guard Tweagle. The old man struggles to breathe while he clutches at the shaft of the arrow in his chest. Don't worry about me, he grumbles at you. Get the air out of here. I'm not leaving my mother, snaps Rochelle. Yes, Rochelle, you are. Regina straightens, placing one hand on Braxton's back and gently pushing the orc out of her way. Spending your life to save mine is a poor trade. Daughters do not die for their mothers. Rather, it should be the other way around, I feel. She smiles, a paper-thin thing already tearing apart. Rochelle, I love you with all my heart. You will be a marvelous leader. I'm so sorry that I couldn't stay with you longer. Mother, says Rochelle, cutting down a bandit and turning toward the tree. No, what are you... Regina spreads her arms wide, calls out, and steps backward into the trunk of the great oak. She presses herself against the bark, and the tree begins to groan, then twitch, and then pull itself free of the earth, standing and moving like a giant. The bandits scream as the tree steps forward on legs of roots, shaking off rich-smelling earth as it goes. Well, snap. The lanterns hanging from its branches become burning weapons as limbs swing, smashing bandits to the ground and setting them aflame. The tree itself catches fire, but that does nothing to stop its rampage, crashing through hedges and hurling screaming bandits around like dolls. As the burning colossus vanishes from sight, you brush yourself off and climb back to your feet. No living bandits remain anywhere in the garden that you can see. Of Kirik there is no sign. Oh, frets Timothy, peering after the vanishing tree monster. I hope it doesn't set the orchard on fire. Well, crap. Alright, so it says if 06 is marked, and it is, then read entry 6374. Okay, I was not expecting that. I will admit that was not part of what I expected. 6374. Okay, 6374. Rochelle sits, shaking with grief, at the edge of the hole left by the oak's departure. Regina lies on the ground, her head in Rochelle's lap. Celise crouches at her side, 2 slender fingers pressed to Regina's wrist. I'm sorry, says the elf. She has moved on. No, groans Rochelle. Sonia, Philip, now mother, why? Soft laughter comes from the hedge. You turn and see Kirik standing at a gap, his scarred face alive with a manic light. So, dear sister, your magic came at a price in the end. My informant told me as much. He pauses, drawing contrition around himself like a masquerade costume. That's a good line. Rochelle, my niece, it's over. I am Lord of Dragonholt now. Rochelle stands and draws her sword, her eyes burning like green fire. Not while I live, she growls. Well, this is crappy. Time passes. We gotta save her, chat. There's no one else left. Read entry 3469. Okay. Rochelle rushes forward, slashing at her uncle. Kirik sidesteps her attack with no apparent distress. This tantrum is unbecoming a young woman of noble birth, says Kirik. Even a bastard's daughter. Enough, shouts Rochelle, parrying Kirik's thrust. Her riposte cuts across the bridge of his nose, sending him staggering back. You did this, she screams. You killed your sister, your niece, your nephew, you kinslayer. Kirik falters. No. He steps backward, sword up as he glances at you and the rest of his audience. That wasn't what I wanted. Philip forced my hand. Another step back. I won't be held responsible for what you make me do if you persist. Suddenly, Kirik turns and flees. Rochelle shrieks an incoherent wail of rage and races after. Well, that's great. You and Braxton leap forward in pursuit, jumping over bandit corpses and struggling to keep both Kirik and Rochelle in view. In the great hall, Kirik runs for the front door. Behind him, Rochelle bends and snatches a spear from the hands of a dead bandit lying on the floor, then steps forward and throws. The spear sinks into the wood of the door with a thunk, nearly striking Kirik's head. He jumps back and Rochelle rushes past him, throwing herself low under his panicked crosscut to slash open his leg. Trailing blood, Kirik staggers to the far stair and climbs up to the salon. Mark 2 progress in war. Oh boy. And read entry 7609. Hold on a second, daughter is here. Good music for the moment. Yeah, like, it's such garbage, right? From just like, oh, you made me do it. Like, shut the hell up. What do you mean I made you do it? I made you do it. Don't make me hurt you. Rochelle lifts her sword and makes to chase after Kirik. Hold on. I think it's... Okay. Lifts her sword and makes to chase after Kirik, but suddenly Braxton is standing in her way with all the insistence of a brick wall. No, my lady, says the orc. You are Countess of Dragonholt now. I can't let you risk yourself like this. Braxton turns to you. Go, she says. Kill him or talk him down, I don't care which. You climb the stairs and find Kirik pacing in the salon. He sees you and readies his sword, a handsome blade featuring the Fairfax family crest. I never wanted Sonia to die, nor anyone else, he says. But now it seems I have no choice. The country is mine by right. The county is mine by right. I should never have let my witch of a sister steal it from me. He raises the sword. All right, now we have 4 choices here, chat. And remember Harriet's skills, okay? I'm going to put this up here. Hopefully you can zoom in, if possible, to kind of look at these. We can engage Kirik in martial combat. We don't have military, though. We do have brawling, but we don't have military, so we have to be careful about that. We could knock an arrow and threaten him. That requires archery. We do have that. We could say, I know, just put down the sword. Or we could say, no one else has to die. So there are 4 choices here, and we got to move carefully. All right, so our choices again are... We can engage Kirik in martial combat. we could knock an arrow. Knock an arrow and threaten him. Say, I know. Just put down the sword. Or say, no one else has to die. There we go. Yeah, what does this threaten him with an arrow? Well, I mean, you know, to me, I'm just thinking about like the whole, what does this do for like the security of the land? Like Regina Fairfax is gone, so it's up to Rochelle at this point. Philip's already dead. Sonia's gone. So like, you know, I don't know. Like I could see this going either way. I don't know. I don't want to sort of like, I don't want to guide anyone's decisions. This is a tough call. I mean, he's got to face justice, right? Like, that's the thing. He's got to face justice. The question is how we do that. And I'm worried about the martial combat thing because we don't have military. And I'm worried, I mean, brawling we have, so maybe that's what it uses. But if it uses like, and we do have willpower now, but if it uses military, we're screwed. But if we try to talk him down, I feel like it's going to be like, persuade him. And I'm going to be like, can we persuade him? We don't have, we do have persuasion. I take that back. You're right, Prince Justin. We do have persuasion. So that is an option. We do have persuasion. So we have, now it doesn't say that it's going to use persuasion, but you would assume so. So we have archery, or we could persuade him. And it's also what Harriet would do. I mean, Harriet is, you know, manic, reckless, self-reliance is critical, loves a challenge as long as it's fair. I don't know. She's passionate. I don't know. But yeah, I forgot about that. We do have persuasion. So either way, this dude has to face justice, and like the crocodile tear thing of just like, oh no, it was so, you know, don't you understand? I'm the only one. It's like, for those of you who've read Ender's Game, and I am fully aware of the problems with the author of Ender's Game, but I'm just talking about from the perspective of just the book. This reminds me very much of Peter, right? Like sort of Peter's attitude in Ender's Game, where he's just kind of like, I need to rule, and you need to help me because it's not my fault that I'm otherwise a complete psychopath and sociopath in every other way, you know? So, last call here. More pointed, yes. Alrighty. Yeah. I understand the reasons, Arudna. I respect that. I respect that. I used to teach Ender's Game years ago, and then when he became actively, you know, and openly homophobic and all that stuff, then I stopped teaching it. And I have replaced his book with the book. Yeah, I replaced his book with This Is How You Lose the Time War. So it is nice to be able to replace that guy with Amal and Max's work. So yeah. Suddenly we got a beatbox thing here. Yeah, exactly. All right. It's knock an arrow time, people. Knock an arrow. Knock an arrow. Knock an arrow. Okay. Let's see. So. Okay. You knock an arrow and draw, centering the point over his chest. Carrick turns to the side and lifts his sword in a steady hand as you explain that his only option at this point is to surrender peacefully. If you have performance or, Prince Justin, persuasion. If you have performance or persuasion, says it right there. So it does get used. Except we're persuading with a bow. I find a good way to persuade someone is when you've got an arrow drawn in their chest when you're trying to deal with a tyrant. Okay, we do have persuasion. Yes, we do. 9664. Kirik puts on a brave face, but he also makes no move to attack you while you have your bow drawn. Dragonholt is my birthright, he explains. It was mine before it was ever hers. We don't even know that Regina is the same person as the bastard daughter my father never bothered to mention. She was only ever accepted because she was the hero of the hour. Kirik grips his sword tightly, bringing it up between you. But her hour is past. This county is mine by right. You explain that whether true or not, he lost any real claim on the county years ago and forfeited it for good when Sonia died, which is true. All right, 2 points for progress and 1 progress in war. So we've got 3 in war, 2 in peace. I like the fact we added both of those things. The final rebuttal. That's awesome, Prince Justin. That's so awesome. Okay, 5863. Okay. Rochelle suddenly appears at the top of the stairs, her naked sword in hand. She stalks forward, Braxton behind her. Give up, Kirik. You'll never be Count. I already am, he growls, then kicks through the door and into Philip's studio. The county is mine. If you make me kill you for it, you'll have only yourself to blame. I cannot stand this if you make me do stuff. He knocks over an easel and shrouded canvas and tops a plinth holding a half-finished sculpture across your path. You follow, stepping sideways around the debris. All right, we have 3 choices here, chat, which is to give chase despite the obstacles. Well, we can't block his path with a wall of ice because that requires rune, frost rune. We don't have that. So, give chase despite the obstacles. There's nowhere to run, Kirik, give up. Or it's as Rochelle says, you've already lost. So we give chase despite the obstacles. That might be agility, maybe, which we do have. So it's either give chase the obstacles, or say there's nowhere to run, give up, or say it's as Rochelle says, you've already lost. I have no opinion on this at all. I think any of these 3 choices are viable. I think we just have to think about our skills and just, figure it out that way. Yeah, why is shoot him not an option? Yeah, well, we'll see. Bow, bow, bow. Even if I'm thinking about it mechanically, give chase might be agility, right? It's as Rochelle says, you've already lost, might be persuasion, or it might also be willpower, right? And we have both of those. It could be deception, but what are we deceiving? On the other hand, we know for a fact we have agility, which seems likely. I don't know. I mean, but the obstacles, that could also be reasoning though. And we don't have reasoning, so I could see it any number of possible ways. So, yeah, could well be Triffid. Could well be. Alright, we're going to last call this. Also, hi Jay, if I didn't say hi before, I know you were here earlier. It's true that a chase does feel more like Harriet, yes. And I really do like the way the game reflects, because I think I told you I told you before earlier tonight that I played this with a friend of mine. Two very different kinds of characters than Harriet, very different. And so the kind of adventure proceeded in a very different way. So really understanding that is a part of it. Yeah, it could be CQ, that's true. All right, going once, going twice. And sold. All right. Give chase despite the obstacles. All right, let's see how we go. $96.06. You rush after Kirik, shouting for him to give up, but the floor is covered with hazards and obstacles to your progress. Despite your best efforts, it's clear that Kirik will reach the door before you can catch him. If you have Arcana or Runes, really? Arcana or Runes? Well, god damn it. Well, we don't have those things. Crap. Man. Desperately looking for something, anything, to stop Kirik, you snatch up a nearby book, a fencing manual, and hurl it at him. Okay, that's actually... The book collides with the back of his head and sends him staggering into a bookshelf, which topples, cascading books everywhere. Okay, this isn't that bad. I can get behind this. You allow yourself a tiny moment of celebration, then leap over the fallen easel and continue your chase. Mark 1 progress in war. Shoot him! Shoot him! All right. 44:28. How is the dude moving if we just hit him in the head? Okay. 44:28. Stumbling through the fallen books, Kirik staggers through the door from Philip's studio into Rochelle's training hall. You follow, passing into the long dueling saal with its racks of weapons and carefully smoothed floor to find Braxton and Rochelle blocking the door back to the salon. Braxton's face is grave, Rochelle's flushed and bright-eyed. Kirik has nowhere to run. Everywhere I turn, he breathes. He lifts his sword and stalks to the side, keeping his eyes on Rochelle. Come then, let us make an end of this. Alright, book to the head. We have 3 choices, chat. End this farce with steel and blood, and I will admit I like the description. Bring him to his knees with fire requires Arcana. We don't have that. Say, throw down your sword, you're outnumbered, or we're not going to fight you, Kirik. Now, it is true that obviously if we fight him, that's going to be a whole war-based thing, which seems to be the direction we were going anyway. But I don't know if we want war or whatever. Like, that's just a thing. But we have 3 choices, and again, I will leave it up to chat. Leave it up to the hands of chat. So, the choices are end this farce. Now, again, he has military, but we have brawling. So, hopefully that helps. Steel and blood. Say, throw down your sword. You're outnumbered, which is true. And that could be persuasion or willpower, maybe. Or say, we're not going to fight you, Kirik. There are your 3 choices. What's it going to be, chat? End this farce. Part of the problem is that entry is so well worded. Like, you're just like, end this farce with stealing. Like, I mean, you all know, like, for me, I would want to be doing this in a pacifist way, except this dude is such a freaking punk. I just, the whole business of, like, I don't know. The only reason I would say, thank you, Pumpkin Appear Flyer, for the vote. The only reason I would say, like, not to do it is because I don't know what the future of the duchy or the county will be. But man, this guy's such a punk. Like, I don't know. I could totally see this in either direction. I'm going to last call this. Sounds like we're pretty definitive about this one. Well, we are in the midst of the end of Legacy of Dragonholt, chasing down this pretender to the throne, who's basically the uncle of, or he's the brother who was the estranged brother. He's been trying to get back the throne even though he doesn't deserve it, and his sister Lady Regina Fairfax, who has a lot of magic, just basically sacrificed herself to save her daughter and to kill a bunch of bandits and stuff. Kirik is the leader of the bandits. So Kirik is basically here, and it's now the sort of final showdown with Kirik, basically. So that's the deal. We're fighting an evil usurper. Yes. All right. And we're going to close, and that means end this farce with steel and blood, it says. All right. 9260. All right. Without another word, you lift your weapon and step forward. Kirik's lip curls back in a snarl, and he shifts his stance to meet you. His sword trembles in his grip. If you have dueling or military, well, we don't. This was my only worry about this. We don't have dueling or military. We have brawling, but we don't have those, sadly. Okay. 9851. As you clash together, Kirik grips his sword in both hands and swings in a reckless cross slash that catches you by surprise. He follows it up with a furious array of overhand blows, laughing as you retreat under the unexpected aggression before you're finally able to turn one aside and knock him back against the far wall. Why won't you just die? He sighs. It's like, why won't you die? He sighs, fingers white around the hilt of his sword. Mark 1 progress in war. Well, it looks like we're headed towards war, people. You lose 3 stamina. That's sub good. Down to 6 stamina. And read entry 9321. Kirik drops his sword to clatter on the floor, bringing his hands up to cover his face. That's it then, he sighs, his whole body shaking. He straightens and wipes at his face and watering eyes with one blood-streaked hand, then steps towards Rochelle with his palms open. If 8 progress is marked in peace, well, it sure as hell isn't. It's 2 progress. So, we were not really on the peaceful track. 907. Yeah. A calm settles over the group. I'm sorry, says Kirik. Rochelle turns away, recoiling as if burned. Braxton sheathes her sword and steps forward to restrain Kirik, who suddenly bounds past her, drawing a knife from within his tunic. If 8 progress is marked in war, it's not marked, not that much. So that means entry 9172 is this punk. Rochelle turns back, raising her sword between herself and her uncle, but she manages only a shallow cut across his side. Suddenly, Kirik is behind her, one hand tangled in her curls and the other holding the dagger to her throat. Dragonholt is mine, he hisses. If story point 06 is marked, and it is marked, otherwise, read entry 1513. Yeah, it was a feint. Okay. Drop your weapons or she dies, hisses Kirik. Braxton pauses, her sword half out of its sheath, her whole body tense. Do it, the rogue lord hisses, pressing on the knife until the drop of crimson forms on Rochelle's light brown neck. Braxton's sword clangs as it falls to the floor. The only other sound is Rochelle's ragged breathing. Alright, we have 4 choices here. We can either... Okay, Arudna, I'll see you later, man. 4 choices here. Rush at Kirik with weapon in hand. That's choice number 1. Choice number 2 is put an arrow between Kirik's eyes, which requires archery, and we do have that. Choice number 3 is drop your weapons. And choice number 4 is say, let her go. Killing her will only make things worse. Now, this is the one case where I think we have to be careful about the rushing at Kirik because of where he is. Like, I know that she's reckless, but she's not stupid. And that feels like, to me, that's just, I don't know, that seems like a good way to get her killed. So, rush at Kirik with weapon in hand. Choice 2 is put an arrow between Kirik's eyes. Choice number 3 is drop your weapons. Or choice number 4, I should say drop our weapons. Choice number 4 is say, let her go. Killing her will only make things worse. Now, we do have persuasion, but I'm not sure that that's going to be enough to be able to convince him. So, yeah. Oh, no, he cannot rule. He cannot be allowed to rule. The question is what we're doing to basically take this guy down either peacefully or not. But this dude cannot rule. This guy can't within a mile of the throne. Like, I'm just saying that, like, I could see where an argument like, oh, well, Harriet's reckless, but she's not going to be dumb and just, like, when he's got a knife literally to the throat of this person. An arrow, this is one of those, like, you know, type of thing. Hey, what's up, Critchwitch? Thank you for the support, Lurk. I appreciate that. All right, last call. Last call, last call. All right, going once. Going twice. Yeah, he's just like, he's like what? Yeah, that would be bad. All right, so put an arrow between Kirik's eyes. Acquires archery. Read entry 9073. Okay. Well, we know it's got to be close to the end because we're almost out of lines here. So 9073, 9073. You draw back an arrow, trying not to think of the dozen ways this could go wrong. No, shouts Braxton as Kirik begins to draw his knife across his niece's throat, and your arrow flies from the bow. If both story points D4 and W3 are marked, well, neither one of them is marked. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Kirik laughs as your arrow passes harmlessly past his head. His knife drags a ragged line across Rochelle's throat and he hurls her at you. Choking on her own blood, Rochelle staggers into your arms, knocking you to your knees. You watch the light fade from her green eyes. Well, god damn it. This just went south. This is bad. This is very, very bad. Braxton crouches over Rochelle's body, tears streaking her face. She reaches out with 2 fingers, thick with calluses and scars, and gently closes the corpse's eyes. The big orc blubbers, mopping at her eyes and nose with her other hand. Kirik steps backward, laughter overtaking him, as he clutches at his head. I did it! I reign in Dragonholt! He straightens, staring up at nothing. Aren't you proud of me, father? He screams. Read entry 5697. Well, growling like an animal, Braxton snatches her sword and rises. Before she can do more than lift her blade, however, mailed soldiers in Belmont red rush through the doors and fill the room. No one move, bellows their sergeant, a sallow woman with a gold crest on her helm. Lord Kirik, what happened here? These monsters just murdered my sister and niece. Oh my god, said Kirik, gesturing at you and Braxton with a flick of his fingers. He tosses his bloody dagger to land on Rochelle's corpses, daring you to contradict him. Take them into custody, Sergeant. This piece of crap. They will have to answer for their crimes. No, whimpers Braxton. You can't believe him. You can't. Be silent, traitor, barks the sergeant, and the next thing you know, you are clapped in irons and marched through the manor by a column of armored soldiers. As you pass through the Great Hall, you see Celise and Miriam held at spear point by more soldiers, and the surviving members of the Fairfax household clustering beneath the balcony, staring with their mouths hanging agape. Braxton, shouts Miriam. Don't worry, I'll clear this up. We won't let this happen. You stagger through the front door and into a chilling mist. A raven croaks and flutters from a nearby apple tree, watching you with its black eyes gleaming. Read entry 9994, Tyrant Ending. Oh my goodness. You and Braxton spend a few days crammed into the village's only jail cell, guarded at first by soldiers in Belmont red and white, and then by guards in Fairfax colors who you are certain were bandits a week ago. Celise and Miriam visit as often as they can and are your only sources of food, water, and news. From what they tell you, Kirik now rules as Count of Dragonholt with the support of the Belmont family. The Cunninghams of Haverford, rather than disputing the claim, have retreated back to their lands and hunkered down. Kirik's brigands are marching through the village streets to keep order, but even so many citizens of the county are upset. Some have already fled to Haverford or left the region entirely. Most of the local gnomes vanished overnight. The Countless Inn has been put up for sale. After 3 cold, gray days, you are marched from the jail cell and onto the village green, where a gallows has been erected of fresh-cut wood. You and Braxton are each fitted with a rope and left to stand on the gallows while Kirik paces back and forth. Eventually, a crowd gathers on the village green, herded and shoved into place by mail-clad Fairfax guards. Kirik gives a speech about the vile betrayal and murder of his dear niece and nephew at the hands of you and Braxton. You look out at the crowd and find it a sea of disbelieving, fearful faces. You see no trace of Celise, but manage to pick a teary-eyed Sapphire, stoic Grisbeck with his hands over Penny's eyes, and a few others out of the crowd. Miriam is in the front row staring at her wife and sobbing. And there can be only one punishment for treason, says Kirik, and you feel yourself drop. This campaign is complete. Alright, that was the worst possible ending of all time. This is the terrible ending. That ending sucked. I mean, I get it. Just like, yeah, all those extra meals at the beginning. Oh no. All right. So we gotta wind that back, I think, to the choice with the whole archery thing, because clearly that was not right. Clearly that was not the way to go. I mean, woof. Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's very Dragon Age, I guess. But... oh, man. Alright, so... alright. Back to the trellis ending. Let's see. I don't even know. I'm just looking quickly to see. See, the trellis was close, yeah, because it looks like a lot of these other ones. I mean, all these other ones are going to end up in the same way, I think. So, alright, let's back up to the trellis. How far back was the trellis? Good God. That was way far back, though. Yeah. That was... good gravy. That was way far back. I'm looking to find where the heck the trellis thing is. $88.55. Let's see. 89-13. Is that after the shark, maybe? Maybe that was after the shark. Okay, here it is. I found it. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. No, it's not the first. I mean, I'm trying to think. Certainly since I've been streaming, it is. I'm kind of glad that Arudinel left because this would not have, you would not have been happy given the circumstances. All right. So, right. Let's try this again. So, coming from the trellis then. So, we're going to go with fend off the bandits on the narrow path just because that was the one that barely lost the last time. And we're going to see what happens with this alternate ending since we know what that does. Let's see. Wait, that's not right. What was it? 6602. What? Well, that's interesting. This is a bad... Okay, so fend off is there's a mistake here. Because it gives me entry 7329, and when I go to entry 7329, it starts doing all this magic stuff. Which is not what it's about. Well, I don't... Yeah, that's a mistake. I kind of don't know what to do here because this is not the right entry. So, maybe it's that one. No, it doesn't have the, which is the clearing. That's the same thing. And then 1157 is 5205. It looks like it ends up in the same place. To progress and... Oh, no, God damn it. $49, okay, $45.49, $63.74. A lot of this too is the fact that we didn't save. We didn't save Philip, and that has been hurting us a lot. The fact that we didn't save Philip, like there's been multiple times. Let's see. All right, she did that. Climb up to the salon. 7609. I'm just going to the spot to see where we could have done things differently. Okay, we threaten him. Alright, that was 9664. Butcher Brave Face. 5863. Let's see. Alright, well, the spot where we get to something where... Okay. Alright. So when we get to this spot here, this is the spot where it says you'll never be Count. And this is the part where he like knocked a bunch of stuff over. We gave chase despite the obstacles, remember, because we thought it was going to be agility, but it was Arcana. So if we don't do that, then we would say either there's nowhere to run, Kirik, give up, or it's as Rochelle says, you've already lost. So let's take a look at that. $vote 1 space would $vote space 1 would be there's nowhere to run, Kirik, give up, and $vote space 2 is it's as Rochelle says, you've already lost. So which of those two things should we say? This is the last time we had that kind of, you know, choice, basically. All right, I'm just looking for a couple of these things here. I'm double checking because, like, okay, that's true. That's very, very true. Okay, let's see. So, okay, shoot, I just lost where I was. This is, where are we here? Okay, 9664. No, not 9664. Yeah, no, 9664, that's right. 5863. Okay, this, I found it. All right, so, last call. Now I know where we are. So yeah, there's nowhere to run, or it's as Rochelle says, you've already lost. So we're looking at, so far there's nowhere to run is ahead. And, wait for it. Okay. So nowhere to run is the winner. That's 7718. Nowhere for me to run. Kirik laughs a bitter bark and comes to a stop near the door. He turns to face you, then kicks over a nearby bookshelf, sending loose papers and volumes tumbling every which way. Why would I run? He lifts his sword, its point shining in the dim light of a nearby lantern. I am the Count of Dragonholt. If you want to avoid further bloodshed, all you need to do is surrender. If you have persuasion, and we do, then it's 30-38. Okay. You shake your head and tell Kirik he will never be Count, not with so much blood and death surrounding him tonight. I am Count, he hisses. You ask him to drop his weapon, beg him to spare his own life. It is you who should be surrendering, he growls, but he steps back away from you, his eyes wide and white in the soft light. Mark 2 progress and peace. Okay. So, 2 progress and peace. We didn't have that before. Stumbling through the fallen books, Kirik staggers through the door from Philip's studio into Rochelle's training hall. You follow, passing into the long dueling cell with its racks of weapons and carefully smooth floor to find Braxton and Rochelle blocking the door back to the salon. Braxton's face is grave, Rochelle's flushed and bright-eyed. Kirik has nowhere to run. Everywhere I turn, he breathes. He lifts his sword and stalks to the side, keeping his eyes on Rochelle. Come then, let us make an end of this. All right, so now this is the one that we talked about, end this farce with steel and blood. Problem is, we were not in a position to be able to do anything with that because we don't have dueling and we don't have military. So the choices that, and the other one requires Arcana, which we don't have. So the choices we really have are throw down your sword, you're outnumbered, or we're not going to fight you, Kirik. So let's look at those 2 choices. Choice 1 is throw down your sword, you're outnumbered, or we're not going to fight you, Kirik. Those are the 2 choices that we have. And this is interesting because this is sort of going in a different direction, but it is stuff that's based on stuff that Harriet could also do. So, kind of, yeah. Yeah, Jay. But without provoking him, right? I mean, basically, yeah. Yeah. +1 mental damage. Ooh. Ow. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Option 1. So we are going to throw down the sword. You're outnumbered. And what he says is, outnumbered, chuckles Kirik. I have allies you haven't seen yet. I don't need to beat you all. I just need to kill her. He spins and lashes out at Rochelle with his sword, but Braxton catches his blow on her shield and steps into the block to drive him back. Kirik staggers, laughing and cursing. If you have persuasion, and we do, you urge Kirik to put aside his sword and surrender, reminding him that it's the only way to end this conflict without any more bloodshed. Rochelle and Braxton step forward as well, their own weapons drawn. Kirik looks from Braxton's sword to you, to Rochelle's face, drawn and grave, his green eyes burning. The same color as his eyes, you notice suddenly. He sighs, his face contorting and then smoothing to blankness. Mark 2 progress and peace, alright. Close, peace is almost maxed out now, almost. Kirik drops his sword to clatter on the floor, bringing his hands up to cover his face. That's it then, he sighs, his whole body shaking. He straightens and wipes at his face and watering eyes with one blood-streaked hand, then steps towards Rochelle with his palms open. Okay, 8 progress is not marked in peace, so we go to this thing where he's going to run at her, I believe is what that is. A calm settles over the group. I'm sorry, says Kirik. Rochelle turns away, recoiling as if burned. Braxton sheathes her sword and steps forward to restrain Kirik, who suddenly bounds past her, drawing a knife from within his tunic. 8 progress is not marked in war, so that brings us to 9172. Rochelle turns back, raising her sword between herself and her uncle, but she manages only a shallow cut across his side. Suddenly, Kirik is behind her, one hand tangled in her curls, and the other holding the dagger to her throat. Dragonholt is mine, he hisses. Story point 06 is indeed marked. And so that means that we go to 5732, the part where he threatens us and says, oh, God damn it. I swear to God, sometimes I see this and it's like, do this if that happens. It is marked. Okay. Drop your weapons or she dies, hisses Kirik. Braxton pauses, her sword half out of its sheath, her whole body tense. Do it, the rogue lord hisses, pressing on the knife until a drop of crimson forms on Rochelle's light brown neck. Braxton's sword clangs as it falls to the floor. The only other sound is Rochelle's ragged breathing. Now, this is the one where we could either rush at Kirik with weapon in hand. We thought that was a bad idea. Put an arrow between Kirik's eyes. We tried that, and that obviously didn't work. Drop your weapons, or say let her go. Killing her will only make things worse. So the only options we have here are, realistically, are those two, which is to drop weapons or to speak. So we could do that, and I'm going to open up this thing. So $vote space 1 is drop your weapons. $vote space 2 is to let her go. Killing her will only make things worse. Now, if we get one more choice with persuasion, if we do that, we might be able to mark the last 2 in peace, and that might at least get us to the point where we'll have 8 marked in peace, which is max. And that's the best we can do. So it's a gamble, but we know dropping weapons seems to me unlikely to work. We know that the weapon in hand is not going to work. We already know the arrow for sure doesn't work. So that means our only option here really is either drop the weapons or to say let her go. So yeah, I think this is moving in the only direction that it's reasonable to go, honestly. I feel like. So, because it seems like it's 5-0, I'm going to do that since everyone seems in favor of that. So, let's see, it says, worse, Kirik chuckles, a deep belly laugh with teeth. How could it get worse? You think I wanted them to die? Light and shadow, they're my own blood. His laughter dies. I just wanted what was mine. Can you imagine what sort of reign I would have had with my sister by my side? How strong our county would be today? He twists the knife against Rochelle's throat, sneering. But she couldn't have that, could she? She couldn't just let me have what was mine. Oh my god, this guy. You pull Kirik's attention back to you, reminding him that Rochelle isn't the one who stole his title, and urging him to leave the past in the past and focus on the future. Kirik begins to weep, and his grip on his dagger relaxes. Mark one progress in peace. And if you have empathy or persuasion, and we do have persuasion, mark one additional progress in peace. That's 8 max, chat, so this is the best we can do. We're going to see if this makes a difference. Kirik, says Rochelle, I'm sorry for what happened to you, but this is not the way to get justice. She reaches one hand up to his wrist. Let me go. If 8 progress is marked in peace. Yeah, it is. 8 progress is marked in peace. Shuddering, Kirik lets out a breath you didn't realize he was holding. The dagger falls from his hand, and he deflates, his shoulders slumping, his stance collapsing. Rochelle steps carefully away, and you and Braxton waste no time in pinning him to the wall and restraining him. Time passes. Damn. So that was the only way. The only way. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There are other ways. There are many other paths to get to different points. But in terms of what we had left, this is what we've got. Okay. With Kirik safely restrained, the fear and exhaustion of the last few hours catches up with you in a rush. You feel disjointed, almost as if swimming through your own life. Soldiers clad in mail and Belmont red arrive, and under Braxton's direction escort Kirik away. Someone presses a clay cup of water into your hand. You drift into the great hall. Right, we needed that exactly, Prince Justin, right. Regina's body lies on the only surviving table in the place, resting atop a dense carpet of flowers and other memorials. Her own masquerade disguise, the black and white dragon, lies next to Sonia's white lamb. Most of the household clusters around the table, openly weeping. Timothy alternates between trying to give instructions that trail off mid-sentence to nearby staff and blowing his nose on a black handkerchief. Braxton clutches Miriam to her, furiously wiping tears away with one calloused thumb. Celeste cries silently, dabbing at her eyes with the hem of her cloak. Rochelle stands alone, clutching the filigree butterfly mask that had been meant for Philip to her chest. Her eyes glimmer with pain, but no tears fall. Her skin is ashen and her gaze fixed on nothing. You half expect to see an arrow protruding from her heart. Eventually she takes a deep breath and her eyes focus. She looks at each member of her household one at a time and shares a quiet nod with them. You stand for a silent moment, paying your own respects, and stagger out the front door of the manor. The sky offers a pre-dawn grayness, and somewhere a rooster crows. Mark story point C8. Read entry 9997. And it says stoic ending. Stoic ending. Alright. Let's see what we've got with the stoic ending. Kirik is executed the next day in the orchard beneath the Fairfax Memorial Tree. Braxton does the honors with one swing of an enormous axe. Only a handful of witnesses are present. You note that Celeste is not among them. Rochelle seems closed off emotionally. She gives a leaden speech to the villagers about the events of the previous weeks and rejects all offers of comfort or assistance. Even at her coronation ceremony, she barely says a word. Celeste leaves for Dawnsmore the morning after the ceremony. My advice isn't welcome, and neither am I, she tells you. Under Rochelle and Braxton's leadership, the Fairfax Guard swells in number. In a month, she has 30 swords at her command, and mercenaries are flocking to the county. She establishes a guard station in Evesmoor and orders the construction of a new castle on a hill north of the village. She names it Castle Philip. Ursula has the mural in the Countess Inn repainted to show a fierce warrior woman, blood-stained sword in hand. The rest, she explains, will be added in time. As for you, Rochelle rewards you for your assistance with a fat purse and a stiffly worded speech. But she offers no friendship, and while she doesn't order you out of her county, you get the impression everyone would be happier if you left. It seems she hasn't forgiven you or herself for Philip's death. This campaign is complete. Alright, so that is not the worst ending. That could be a lot worse. But there are 2 others, and they both involve Philip. So we actually, we basically, a lot of this went down actually when we lost Philip. And I'm just curious to see from the other campaign that I ran. We had the lonely ending. So, chat, do you want to hear the other two endings? Yeah. So we've heard the two you get. Do you want to hear the other two endings that we could have gotten? Okay, these are both assuming that Philip was alive, okay? The first one is that where Rochelle dies, but Philip does not. This is called the lonely ending, and the lonely ending is the one that my friend and I got. Philip survived, but Rochelle didn't. Philip puts on a brave face the following morning, giving a speech from within a curtain of fog on the village green. He proclaims a sentence of exile in his uncle Kirik, never to return to the barony on pain of death. No one seems to question whether his authority stretches that far. You hear from Solis over the following months that Philip is doing well. The other lords have accepted him as the Count of Dragonholt despite his age, and he is ably supported by Solis, Timothy, Braxton, and others. He soon cultivates a fine, if stiff, public face, but he is known to cry whenever he's alone, especially at night. He will make a fine lord, she reports, but it will take time for his wounds to heal. As Lord, Philip continues the traditions and practices laid out by his mother. He begins construction on a small open-air theater at the edge of the Willow Grove and has the walls facing the market row painted with memorials to his sisters and mother. Ursula has the Merle and the Countess Inn repainted to show a green-eyed young man holding the twin masks of tragedy and comedy. The rest, she explains, will be added in time. Philip will be fine, Solis tells you, and so will Dragonholt. So that was pretty good. Actually, that was pretty good. That ending's not bad. I mean, it means that Rochelle died, but that's not bad because Philip is a workable, functional lord. And then the last ending, which is the hopeful one, which is what would have happened if we saved both Philip and Rochelle, is the hopeful ending. Kirik is placed in the guard station cell until the following day, when after some debate, Rochelle has him escorted to the main hall of Fairfax Manor to stand trial. Standing before the entire household, notables from the village and members of the nearby nobility, Kirik offers no defense for his crimes, so it falls to Philip to argue for him, which he does with passion. Rochelle pronounces a sentence of exile, never to return to the barony on pain of death, and promises that Baroness Katrin will honor the decree. Together, the Fairfax siblings set about restoring their household and their county, often seen riding together through the village and the outlying lands. Rochelle strengthens her forces, adding 10 new soldiers in under a month. Philip returns to his studies with Solis, who now also serves as one of Rochelle's chief advisors in matters of state. Braxton, too, becomes a member of Rochelle's inner council, as well as the captain of her guard. Ursula has the mural in the Countess Inn repainted to show a fierce warrior woman, sword and shield in hand, defending a young man with the black and white dragons of Dragonholt rising to either side of her. The rest, she explains, will be added in time. Rochelle rewards you richly for your part in the affair, both with money and honorary titles. How does Defender of Dragonholt sound to you, she asks. I've also been thinking of creating a few landed knights in the county, if you're interested in settling down. This campaign is complete. So, we lost out on basically the two best endings when Philip died. And that comes down to the fact that you all wanted to eat in the bakery. You all spent too much time in the bakery, and that's why we got the two worst endings. Because obviously, like, the worst ending is obviously the tyrant ending, right? That's the worst. The third best ending is the stoic ending, where at least Rochelle is alive and Kirik gets defeated, right? The second best ending is the one where Rochelle dies, but Philip survives because he's a good lord, even though Rochelle didn't make it. And the best ending is the situation with is the one that we just read. So, thus concludes Legacy of Dragonholt. I mean, I have to say, honestly, like, I the last portion of this ball / this thing, reflected, I think, some of the best and worst parts of Legacy. So, I love the skill-based system in Legacy of Dragonholt. I think there's some quite good writing in here. I love that it felt kind of sandboxy. And I love the fact that you really get to know a lot of the personalities and things within this. So I liked that. I did get a little frustrated at things that seemed like they were leading us a certain direction and then didn't. Like, why would I think that the obstacles thing is going to be Arcana and not Agility? That seems a little bizarre to me. There were a couple of things like that where I'm like, you know. And I think the other thing was that what we learned was that you don't want to half-ass it. Right, well, this is what I was going to say, Triffid. So we ended up with some in war and some in peace. The second time around, we made it so that we got all peace. And I gotta be honest, we really had to push ourselves one way or the other. By sort of being like, well, we're kind of violent, but not always. And we ended up putting ourselves where we couldn't get enough of either one, and that also caused problems. The other thing is that there were some skills here which were way more useful than others. Archery got used a lot. Dueling got used a lot, and we didn't have that one. Willpower got used a fair bit. Persuasion was used a ton. So, like, there were some of these that we used way, way more than some of the other ones, which created that stuff. And actually shooting Kirik was, yeah, I know, we wanted to be able to do that because he's such a punk. Like, he's so obnoxious. Like, in terms of the way he handled himself. But really, the die was cast earlier on when we lost Philip, and that was all the way back in, like, geez, Philip was like, I don't even know. Philip was way back in, like, day 2, day 3. I think it was like day 2 is where we went back. So, in the end, we had a decent amount in heroism, a lot in academic study, a lot in combat training, a lot in social practice. This is the first or second session, yeah. And the thing is, like, there's no way to get to max ourselves out on everything. There's no way to do everything. So the best that we can do is just to make it where we get as close as we possibly can by getting a lot of it completed. That's the best that we can do with that scenario. And that's what we ultimately were able to do. We were able to do enough when we redid things a little bit to get the stoic ending. So we were able to get that much. I think there was that. I mentioned before that I did not like the fact that this book started falling apart like 6 months after I bought it. That I was not crazy about. That could have been a little better in terms of quality. And this art, which I absolutely adore, why is there not more art? I mean, literally everything in here is just text, 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 except for the art, which we can find in, like, I don't know, however many different books that works out to. Like, we have the rule book, we have character creation, and then we've got, like, art to New Roads. Sliver of Silver, that was fun. That was the Goblin Mine one. Whispering Leaves, I don't think either of us, either my friend and I or we never did Whispering Leaves. Terror on the Prairie, that was the dragon. That was going to be really hard. Crypt of Carthun, I don't think we did that one either. We might have done Whispering Leaves, actually, but we did not do Crypt of Carthun. And then Dragonholt Village. But the art on all this is really, really great. I just wish there was more of it. And I feel like for the amount that the game costs, which is something like $50 or whatever, for that amount, they ought to be able to do more than they ultimately did. Like, even the art on the cards is pretty good too, but it's like black and white dress, and it's, I don't know. So that part, I feel like more could have been done in that area. But having said all of that, I think in the end, for my money, I think this game actually works out pretty well. I think it was pretty good. I think that there was a lot going for it. I just would have liked to see more bells and whistles, and that ending at the end, the bad ending is very bad. Like, I mean, I don't mean bad isn't badly written, but it's like very, very dark. So there is that, to a certain extent that ending is very dark. But I liked this. I think I would probably give this I might give this like a 6.5 or a 7, because there were some issues with it that we talked about already. And it's definitely not a perfect game. And, it's too bad, because ultimately this is, as I mentioned to all of you, the last one that they did in this system, so to speak. After that, they haven't put anything out since 2018. So, and I don't think there are any plans for any at the moment. So I have to assume that that's it. That like there's nothing else that's going to come out with this. But I do like the idea of what this game is trying to do, and I'd like to see more things like this. More art, more clear options at times, more better quality of materials so that you don't have stuff breaking apart. And the only other thing is that the game's not really replayable. I mean, I've played it once with my friend and once with you folks, and like, that's it. Like, the game's not replayable anymore. Now, that's fine. You know, we got a lot of play out of it, but like, that's the only thing. If you wanted to play this, like, yeah, exactly. Like, you could play it on your own and make a different character with very different choices. But I think you basically get one replay out of it. Once you get past that, you know, it's unlikely you're going to be able to make like 3 different, very different paths through. 2, yeah. 3, yeah. So, you know, but having said that, I really do think it's a very novel idea, and I wish that they could have done more of it with some of those corrections put in place. And yes, less obfuscated choices, I think, is a good way to put it. So, in the end, though, Harriet, good work, Harriet. And I have to say, honestly, my favorite part of this entire thing, and I mean by a long way, my favorite part of this entire game was the whole goblin mine. There is that. Well, that's right. I think that's right, actually. And, you know, I have always made it clear that it is possible for players to die in my campaign, for characters, not players, characters to die in my campaign. I have had many characters that have died in campaigns, including ones on the channel. And, you know, if this sort of reflects the fact that a TPK can happen, you know, there's that sort of option. Yeah. Because the thing is about the Tyrant ending is not fundamentally unfair, right? It really isn't. It's not unfair. It's not like that ending is like, wait, what? It was totally supposed to be XYZ. Like, you know, there were some ending, like, leaving aside the part about the obstacles thing, which I thought was a little not very clear, most of the rest of it is fairly clear. Pulling down the trellis, for instance, the pulling down the trellis thing is something that an engineer would do, and that's not what we were. So really, probably fighting the bandits was the way to go there, right? You know, dealing with things like not, you know, taking the cue of not messing around in the bakery, but being like, we got to go, not doing the classic computer RPG thing of like, yeah, we got to go save the world, but first I'm going to go loot every item on every monster. We all do that, right? But that's really unrealistic. Technically, you got to go. Like, if you got to go to save the world, you got to go save the world. We didn't do that, and then we paid the price because of what happened with Philip, and that meant that 2 endings were completely taken away from us. So I didn't feel like, as Configuration Queen said, and as Prince Justin just said, I feel like this game didn't cheat us. And that I appreciate. I feel bad for Arudinel, though, because I know the experience of what he was talking about. The fact that, you know, it's just so wrong. Like, right, wrong in terms of, like, the guy deserves to, you know, face it. And in the Stoic ending, which we did the second time around, we made one different choice, he does face justice. So 3 out of the 4 endings, he does face justice. But he does it in the way that we sort of described previously. And so that, I think, is sort of important for what we dealt with here. So, yeah. And it also shows you, of course, the dangers, I think, of having a county-based, nobility-based system. Like, no matter how good it is, there was just so much riding on it. I mean, I hate to say it, but, like, if you look at the history of royalty in general, that's kind of the way a lot of these things ultimately went down, you know? So, so I liked the game, despite its drawbacks, and I like what it was trying to do. My question, Chad, is how you felt about the game. How did you feel about it? Thumbs up, thumbs down. I've heard some people say they liked it. What was your general feeling about it? 7 out of 10? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I feel, Prince Justin. I think that 7 out of 10 is about right. Definitely worth playing. Okay. 6 out of 10. Plot armor, 6 out of 10. Yeah, this is all floating in what I expected. Not enough muffins. True. Not enough muffins. Yeah, this is all more or less, because I told you I was hovering around a 6.5 to 7. And so Prince Justin 7, Jay 6, Dragon 6. Triffid, I don't know if you can put out. You don't have to if you don't want to, like a numerical score, but like that feels to me like definitely worth playing is in that general vicinity. So yeah, I think it was cool. I'll tell you the other reason that I wish that they had done another one in this system. I feel like they would have learned from this, right? I feel like they would learn. It was Nikki Valance who's the designer of this. I feel like they would learn from this and that they'd be able to go, okay, like here's some things that we could have done differently to adjust, right? Here's some things that we can make different. Here's some things that we can work around. And that ultimately would have made a difference here. So I feel like, yeah, I think that's right. I think about a 6 or 7. But like I say, I enjoyed playing it with you folks because of the nature of this thing. Now, I do have a pleasant surprise for you, chat, which is I was planning on going till 1 tonight, and so we are going to get a chance to start off what is going to be the next D&D with viewers. But, and I'm also saying this in case Rudnell watches the VOD, but I want you to know that what we're going to play is a much different thing than Legacy of Dragonholt. This is going to be much more standard D&D. I've been actually excited to play this for a while. I backed the Kickstarter that this was based on. So I'm going to put this away. I'm going to move this table. I'm going to slide us back in because this is going to be computer-based. So bear with me for just a second while I do that. Legacy of Dragonholt goes back there. I'm going to remove the webcam now because we don't need this. So we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to maximize myself. Okay. And we're going to leave Arvbot up there. So let me get this stuff moved. And I will stream transformation. You know, the thing about it is too, and I want to say something else about this because I think all of you, as usual, are very thoughtful people and made me think about this. What Prince Justin said actually strikes me. The importance of feeling that defeat is possible is important, especially if it feels like it's honoring the choices that we made. So if we did everything right and then all of a sudden like some dude like stalks out of the corner or whatever and is just like, aha, because Keurig is actually a warlock who does blah, blah, blah. You know, that would suck, right? And then that would be something that feels unfair. But when something feels as if it's been set up by the choices that you've made and that it honors those choices, that's really important, right? When TikTok, Peripheral Mike's character during the Tyranny of Dragons, when he died at the end of that campaign, that character, he did so fighting for what he loved, saving what he loved. Like he did so in a way that was, that it was valuable. It made sense that he would do something like that. And so that was, and he was happy as a clam about that ending. He felt like that honored his choices. He felt like it was, he did not, as a Warforged, want to go back to the Red Wizards of Thay. He did not want them to own him and to do terrible things with him and everything. So to him, that was just perfect. Like that was exactly the way that he would have wanted it to end. And that was very instructive because, no one likes to see a character they've invested a lot of attention into die, right? But, having the knowledge that your choices matter. And so even when they die, it's like not a meaningful death in a sort of like cliched way, but that it's something where the person really feels as if they've gotten something positive out of it, that they were listened to by the universe, basically. That's kind of interesting. Yeah. I could see that. And I mean, Rochelle, You know, the interesting thing is that Rochelle is very military in nature, and she needs Philip to kind of like, you know, get herself sort of kind of balance out her military tendencies. So when, like, you know, we save her but not Philip, then, you know, she's like, she has no one to balance out her tendencies. And so we're looking at a very warlike, you know, like, she'll rule fine, but I don't know, it's going to be like a very happy rule. With Philip in charge, it's much better for everybody, but it's obviously sad for Philip, but it's better for everybody else because he's sensible and everything. And then if you save both of them, obviously that's the best of all possible worlds. So hang on a second while I move this table out of the way. Okay. Right. Now we can come back in here. All right, let's reduce that. So we're back to normal. Okay. So now let's put ourselves back up here. More of our usual configuration. And, oh, not quite. I gotta move this bad boy this way. Light panel on me. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. Let's zoom this bad boy out. Shift it over here. Now zoom it back in. Oh. And that would be that. Okay. Alrighty. So that's better. Okay. So let's move that over there. Put that down there. Move this up here. Okay, good. Now, what I want to do here is I'm going to move that over there so we have that. Okay, good. So I'm going to show you all what this is called. I have been waiting to play this for a while, so I am excited to give this a shot. And let's have ourselves, okay. Own games versions. Right, okay, so we've got this. All right, so here we go. I'm going to do single page view. No, that's not right. Zoom. There we go. Okay. So we're going to move this over here. We're going to move this here. And now what we're going to do, chat, is I'm going to show you what this game is called. Before I do that, I'm going to put on a different soundtrack. Dragon Age was a great choice, by the way. Again, Prince Justin, well done there. Okay. Let's see. Oh, actually. Yeah, it really did. Let's go. Let's go with this. I assume some of you will know this. Do people know this one? Oh, also, I'm going to... Okay. Also, I want to stop the recording and then restart it because I want to set this up for a new video. So for those of you who've been watching on my VODs for Legacy of Dragonholt, thank you. Thank you all so much, and please stop by for more D&D with viewers and a bunch of stuff we do on my channel, and I will see you folks soon.